Tell me, I wanna know. Don't hit the brakes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Kart Rider Drift League. We are back with Preseason 2. Had a bit of a month break. Now we're ready to get started with another preseason. My name is William Cho, joined by Peter. And I think that break was nice, but it's very nice to be able to get right back into the races.
Yeah, well, the KDL Preseason 2, we're back now, and we've gone through a bit of changes ever since Preseason 1, and I'm finally getting to see some of that happen on stage today, and I'm sure the viewers are excited to see that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been keeping up with the game, of course, you know that right going into the new season of the game itself, there were already quite a few changes in terms of how items worked, etc. New tracks showing up, obviously some of them old ones kind of being refurbished and renewed here for Kart Rider Drift. But at the same time, we even had a recent patch actually just about a week ago. So still some things maybe even different from the offline qualifiers, right? So change is still happening. Curious to see how it continues to pan out here in the preseason. But we also have a lot of new faces. I think that's also very exciting here for Kart Rider Drift.
This is going to be the best shot the rookies have. In Preseason 1 already, a team like Aura, it wasn't included in the roster of professional teams, so we've had a bit of mixed expectations for them, but they really showed up, and it was as if they are a professional team, and I'm sure that here in Season 2, we might see that as well happening again with some of the new teams like Potential we'll see today, and ShowTime as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're, again, not only are there kind of new banners that kind of players are regrouping around, maybe creating new rosters, even with some of the older names, but then entirely new player names as well. But here is the overview of their team match. Just as a reminder, if you're perhaps even new to Kart Rider Drift League, we have team matches and solo matches, so kind of two parts to this entire league. But we have 8 teams, so we have KWANGDONGFREECS, Live Sandbox, of course, the 2 teams that finished top 2 last season. We've got RO and ROX esports returning as well. But then we have Sensation, Potential, ShowTime, and Seraphic, and I mean, sure, Sensation, of course, they're returning. They requalified through the qualifiers in the team matches, but a lot of these other banners, I mean, new faces in terms of banner and player names.
It's definitely good to see Sensation back because they're a team that, it would be awkward to have them not in the KDL Preseason 2. And the team track list for speed, it has changed a little bit. We have 4 tracks that are new coming into Season 2.
Yeah, of course, we have the WKC tracks that were newly introduced here into this season of the game itself. And then Mine 3 shortcuts entering in for the speed matches. So a little bit of a change, but of course, a lot of classics still remaining. So this is the other question, right, is how much have people practiced the newer tracks returning? And then same thing for item mode. A couple track changes, we should say, especially, something like Village Clock Tower Crossing. While the map itself is fairly familiar, we didn't have it in the league last season, or last preseason for the item mode.
Speaking of Shark's Wake, that one really sticks out to me as well because the name, just Shark's Wake, it just builds up so much anticipation for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fun ones, and, item mode, again, while the tracks themselves sometimes may lend themselves to be simple, it's more about the timing. Do you really understand the strategy? Because it is different. I mean, we look at some of the pre-interviews with the players. They say a lot of strategy involved, and a lot of that happens because of these patch notes, Peter.
The patch notes have been super impactful, especially in item mode. Balloons being the new addition to the Preseason 2 of KDL. You can see the effects for common, fine, and rare. It's different, so a lot of strategies you can take around that, as well as EMP wave being huge, blocking out magnets.
Yeah, I mean, again, some of these changes now were initially in, about a month ago, of course, when the new season was introduced in the game, but then just last week, some additional changes like the EMP wave now blocking the magnets, the magnet being nerfed even further, Angel Armor now hitting a bit of a nerf as well, so really trying to maybe shift the item mode into a bit more of an aggressive meta here. We'll see how that pans out. Already we saw some changes during the offline qualifiers, but now with these additional changes, things are going to be different. Namely also UFO, like if your team's holding that first place, you're not going to have a chance to get it. So there should be a lot of strategy behind, do we get one, try to store it up, maybe save that up for later, because with the balloon now existing, it's really kind of nerfed the effect of things like the missiles.
Yeah, Water Wisp and Water Bomb in return kind of got buffed, we can say, because now they are the stronger alternatives where they're not getting countered out by a balloon. And we love seeing Water Bombs, especially catching 4 players off guard. It can be absolutely game-turning.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some big ones last preseason as well, even in the offline qualifiers, especially with, certain tracks like Clock Tower Crossing. There are some awesome ways to use those water bombs, so curious to see how that all pans out. Again, I think, maybe the biggest changes is going to be that item mode, right? Those item aces and the coaching, if they do have coaching staff, how have they adapted to the new meta? Now we're looking at today's matchup, of course. On the weekends, we have team matches and solo matches, so we'll start with the first two team matches you see on the screen, and then Group A of the solos.
I'm really excited to see this matchup coming in. It's going to be ROX versus ShowTime, so it's a professional team that has already had a good showing, especially through Jung, whereas ShowTime, it's a lot of rookies making this lineup, and of course, KWANGDONG and Potential, it's the same storyline there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, in Group A, Group A is already pretty stacked with the likes of NEAL and Cool, the first two finishers, right? The preseason 1 champion in Cool, and the second place runner-up in NEAL already being there, and then World also being in that final 8 in that last preseason. But we do have some other strong names and a couple new ones as well trying to enter into the solo matches, and we have more groups as well. And namely, I just want to kind of tease that for you if you haven't been following the qualifiers, because of the way that they were opened up this time, Jung will be showing up in one of the later groups as well, so that's exciting.
Jung, he's definitely been at the top of everyone's list to watch out for when it came to the ace matches, which is where your individual skill and speed really shines. And I also want to point out World, who's in Group A. He's the guy who had 4 wins for his team, KWANGDONGFREECS. Only 1 win behind Jung if you look at it that way. So I have really high expectations for World coming into Season 2 as well.
Yeah, again, it should just be a great preseason. I think the team matches, especially with now, again, the patch notes kind of shaking things up. Obviously, even in the speed mode, the balloon's having a bit of an effect in terms of really increasing the amount of boost gauge you gain naturally. So that should change the timings up a little bit as well for teams, especially in team mode, right? Because now you have that double boost gauge in team mode. It's different if you've only been playing solos, right? In team mode, you got to kind of balance out both team boost and then just the regular boost you can get on your own as well. So curious to see how this all shakes up. But then in solos, it's, all gloves are off. It's just a free-for-all.
Yeah, and then speaking of balance that you were going about, I really like that ROX gained a new form of team balance through their player Ding, because Ding has been known to be a player in Preseason 1 that had a great balance of both speed and item. And you have to remember that ROX was a team where, because their item mode was so weak, that's why they relied on Jung. So hopefully now with Ding being in the lineup, they don't need to rely on Jung to constantly be the hero for them.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because as spectators and casters, we love to see ace matches with Jung. It's exciting, but if you're ROX and maybe a fan of ROX, as great it is to see him in ace matches, you don't want to have to rely on that, like you said, Peter. So curious to see if these roster changes make a difference. We will be bringing on the players to the stage, and first up, it's going to be Seongnam ROX. Now, you'll notice they have a new sponsor name. It's actually one of the cities here in Korea that is really investing into esports, really trying to support a lot of these different teams, and their latest addition is going to be ROX Esports here in KDL.
I am from Seongnam myself, so I'm very happy to see some of these naming sponsors coming in. And of course, as we mentioned, ROX, they have Ding replacing their previous player, which is VEGA. He is now sitting on the bench on the sidelines for a bit. ROX is sporting the first 6-man lineup we've seen in KDL.
Yeah, we'll see. Do they really utilize it, or is it a matter of trying to see how things work out with Ding? We'll have to wait and see. But for now, of course, just the 5 members entering for this matchup against ShowTime. And this is pretty much as kind of rookie, as amateur as you can get. And what I mean by that is this entire roster, they barely have any experience on the stage.
And they are super young. They're the rookies of the rookies, trying to replace all the boomers, so to say. Of course, Braun, he's the only one who's had some Kart Rider League experience, also being the oldest in the group. Hopefully, he's able to bring these players, the youngsters, together in cohesion.
I love it. Ghost, you can tell just for the walkout, he's like, wait, do I keep going? Where do I go? Where do I stand? You can just see how green they are. And listen, nerves are probably going to play an effect, but at the same time, we're in a new era of Kart Rider, right? We're here with Kart Rider Drift. It's still the preseason. This is where you want to start to try to make a name for yourself. We need this new generation to start to really shine.
And their team name is already a great way to show off ShowTime. It means as long as they deliver, you know you're in for a good show.
Yeah, I hope so. Like you mentioned earlier, Peter, we had some other amateur teams last preseason that really showed off some great moments. So curious to see how it goes. And now ROX, they're accepting it themselves, right? They said, okay, by recruiting Ding, we're now trying to balance out both speed and item mode. They know that that was one of their weaknesses. And you'll also notice, if you look at the builds, the card body builds here, ever since the changes to a lot of these cards having that 7-point option, we're seeing a lot of differences. For a while, a lot of people said, okay, coming into Preseason 2, 5072 is going to be the answer. But we're still seeing a lot of mixes, and now with some new carts appearing as well. Also should note, cart bodies were adjusted a bit in last week's patch, right? So minecart not going to really just run supreme any longer.
Absolutely, as we see ROX saying a cotton light bat didn't hurt, right? Take a proper beating today and wake up.
Yeah, just trying to tell them, right, the offline qualifiers is nothing compared to really coming up on stage facing off against a pro team. You know, it's just kind of comparing that qualifiers to a Nerf bat, and we'll see. I mean, ROX, at least in speed mode, and if it goes to ace matches in the form of Jung, they have been absolutely dominating here in Kart Rider Drift League.
On the other hand, for ShowTime, if they win in speed mode, then they should have a lot of confidence in their belts because they have had a great performance in item mode comparatively in the qualifiers up to the KDL, as we see them say. It's our debut match today. Hey, you too? Yeah, me too. What would veiled performances of ShowTime be like?
Yeah, I mean, again, like we mentioned earlier, most of them, it is going to be their debut match. So really, they can't really rely on each other to say, hey, just like keep us together. It's all of their first times here on the stage for KDL. And maybe that works to their favor. As their bio is saying, right, we've kind of been under wraps. No one really knows what we do, what we're good at. Try to see if they can catch ROX by surprise in the opening match. And the hunt for the weakest pro team begins. I mean,
oh man,
it's factual, right? There's currently 3 pro teams in KDL, right? It's ROX, and then we've got KWANGDONGFREECS and Live Sandbox, and quite frankly, unfortunately for ROX, you're going up against the 2 best teams in Kart Rider.
Yeah, ROX definitely could be seen as the weakest of 3, as you said, Will. So hopefully ShowTime is able to find the weakness in their shield today. As I mentioned earlier, you know, as long as you can make it to item mode with a win in your pocket for speed, that could be what you need as ShowTime.
Yeah, and we're looking at the speed track list. We should mention ShowTime won the coin flip, so they took speed priority, and again, no surprise there. I mean, Seongnam ROX, they used to be known for having a weak item mode, so ShowTime confident that they can win in that no matter what. And they'll be picking up one of the newer circuits that showed up here for the new season of the game, WKC Singapore Circuit, the first pick.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that as our first track right off the bat, and then of course, followed by a track priority placed on Terracotta Twister from ROX, a track that we're all very familiar with. It can be tricky, especially due to the middle phase where everyone can fall off the map.
Yeah, and then I'm kind of surprised ShowTime going for Zigzag Timberland. I mean, if you can keep the lead there just because of how tight things can get towards the end and the little hairpins, maybe you'll be able to keep it up. But my eyes are all on that first track, going to WKC Singapore Circuit. If ShowTime can kick things off with a win there, maybe we get a much more extended race than we came in expecting for day 1. Peter, well, we're getting ready for track number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we are kicking off Preseason 2 of the Kart Rider Drift League, and we will begin on WKC Singapore Circuit. And the race begins as we kick off this new preseason of KDL.
It's super exciting to get to see the field of Singapore Circuit. I love the aesthetics here, and we're seeing Ding being that runner for ROX right now. That's exactly what you want to be in as ROX.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in their bios. Of course, we have a little sheet kind of telling us what their bios is pre-submitted by the teams themselves. And they even say Ding's just that guy who's just going to race for us. He's just meant to drive, and Jung's actually meant to hold that middle of the ground and then support in any way he can.
Yeah, right now ROX, they have a pretty dominating field on the top half. It's only Spell trying to block out Monster and FaZe. That strategy is paying off so far. Ding is pretty much uncontested. Jung trying to deny Ghost that pass-through.
Yeah, but Ghost is doing a decent enough job to always be in contention, right? He's trying to keep up, and Jung says, okay, you know what? I'm going to try to really get ahead so that Ghost has to keep on worrying about me. See if Jung can continue to put on the pressure. Now it's up to Duzzi. Can he knock out Monster so Monster can't get up close? Monster and Ghost are trying to double team to get up front.
But right now, it's still Ding in the lead, 2-3 being held by ShowTime. However, Fleur and FaZe all the way down in 7-8. ROX is looking really solid.
Yeah, Ding is kind of shooting forward, right on the straightaway. He was able to gain so much ground. And right now, ShowTime, they're so busy dealing with Jung that they can't even keep Ding in their own crosshairs.
Yeah, and Ghost is losing these body checks against Jung right now. Is completely surrounded by 4 members of ROX. FaZe, he's trying to step up, but Duzzi is too far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 2-lapper, Peter, and I'm quite frankly not seeing any way where ShowTime can really break through the ranks here. I mean, just look at the way that they're lined up. ROX, they're not only making sure that they can line up to really support each other, but they're also just spread out enough that they could always body check for each other, right? Make sure that they're not getting passed at any point by surprise. FaZe trying and Spell just cuts right back into the corner.
Oh yeah, right now Duzzi and Jung did fall down to 7 and 8. It is the opening now for ShowTime, holding on to that 4-5-6. They need to pass Spell somehow.
Yeah, I mean, but with the 4-5-6 ShowTime, if they finish this way, it should be good. Can they block off Duzzi? And they will do it, actually.
Whoa.
Wow, with the 2-4-5-6, I take that back. I mean, it was really looking like the entirety of ROX should be safe, but as they were too busy trying to block off that kind of 3rd seed spot, they ended up falling behind in a couple of those last corners, and ShowTime barely able to close out against Duzzi.
We're in for a rookie ShowTime. The focus between these players were absolutely a treat to watch. Jung and Duzzi, you know, we've seen them constantly go for the body checks to keep the members of ShowTime behind, but as soon as they made a mistake and they missed it, you know, they were able to pull through with a very clutch formation.
Well, okay, ShowTime, I mean, I almost wrote them off as well, but they are able to make things happen. But that was Singapore Circuit, that was their pick, right? Now, that is a track that has kind of returned, I should say, here in this new season of the game. Of course, a track that has existed in the past, but with a couple changes of its own. And now we will be going to a track that ROX should be very familiar with, even within Kartrider Drift. It's going to be Terracotta Twister.
It's definitely we could say a track that favors the veterans. They've had more practice playing in the Twister, especially on stage where, you know, the nerves can actually change the outcome of your skills, because you can't really play at your best when you're feeling nervous. However, we are ready now for track number 2. It is Terracotta Twister. Off we go into round number 2. The previous strategy for ROX has been keeping Ding in the lead, and so far they are looking to do the same.
Yeah, and Ding, I mean, he had no problem, right, keeping up that first place position. It was really about, can the rest of his team get enough of a spot, right? Whether it's the 1-2 finish, whether it's something just as safe as the 1-3-5-7, whatever it may be, you're kind of putting Ding in as the guarantee, as the insurance plan that you're always going to have that point lead in first place, and then you figure out the rest from the get-go. And Jung, looks like this time the plan is, okay, let's just get the 1-2, let's just dominate this race, see if we can keep that up. Spell now given the duty to block off the middle of the pack.
This is looking pretty bad for ShowTime. This is a 2-lapper, so they still do have some time. We saw a completely out-of-line move there going off the field. Now it's just ROX maintaining 1-3 so steadily.
Yeah, FaZe kind of got knocked away from the corner and didn't want to risk getting spun out or dropped, so he just takes a wide corner, and we haven't actually seen that happen in the Tomb section in Terracotta Twister here in the pro matches, so curious to see. I mean, does he have enough to catch back up? Currently, he's right back up to 5th place, but it's still a decent kind of ways to get to that way front. Ding and Jung so far ahead, we can see that on the mini-map. It's going to be quite tough for ShowTime to catch up in any capacity.
During the team interview, ShowTime said their win condition heavily depends on how well Flare does, and Flare has been sitting at 8th place since the race began, and that hasn't been changing at all, so they need to buy more time for Flare to be able to catch up.
Yeah, but even just in the middle of that first lap, we could tell that ROX was quite ahead, even in boost gauges.
Oh,
and
Ghost!
I mean, he had to do whatever desperation he could to really try to get closer to the 1st and 2nd place, and he's actually going to give up even 3rd place in that one. So in terms of overall team points, ShowTime not going to have a chance. Ding and Jung will safely arrive in the 1-2 punch, even getting that 3rd place for safe measure.
The veterans of Terracotta Twister are here to show up and say it's too early for the rookie show to happen, and honestly, this is what we expected out of ROX. And honestly, they were maintaining this even in Singapore Circuit. It was just one moment that ShowTime was able to utilize to be able to get in the front, and it seems like that is going to be the story between these two teams so far. ROX always in the lead, ShowTime looking for opportunities.
Oh, well, I mean, again, they're just kind of taking each of their tracks that they chose, so we'll have to wait to see. Now, of course, the rest of the track selection, it's all ones that we should all be familiar with, both in the game and in the tournament. We're looking at Ding here, who's continuing to do the job he was given, right? He's taken that first place, the first 2 places here in both races so far. So, looks like he's a little nervous, right? Trying to prove himself in the ROX squad, but so far I don't think he has anything to be worried about.
Yeah, and I must highlight Duzzi as a player. I think that last season, many people credited Duzzi for the success of Jung being able to be that supporter to allow his team to get to those places, and he is doing that already here in day number 1 of Preseason 2. Ding just has so much support that it's so hard to break through.
Yeah, well, we're going to track 3, currently tied 1-1 in speed mode between these 2 teams. Seongnam ROX versus ShowTime. Going to track 3 on Forest, the Zigzag Timberland. And they're off on for Zigzag Timberland. Duzzi doing what he can to make sure that his team can keep the lead. Him and Jung currently up in 1 and 2.
We were both surprised, Will, that it was ShowTime who would pick Zigzag Timberland as their track. So we are really getting to see some of that strategy happen right now. 2-3-4 for ShowTime. This is the best showing they've had in the earliest phases so far.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty stable. But again, this is one of those tracks that while if you have the lead, you might be able to body black, but the hairpins continue on for quite a bit here towards the later part of the track. And at that point, you get one draft, try to swing around on the outside and really take it out into the in-course on the next turn. Things could shift up. Monster currently holding on to first place, and Spell, now his job is, can you get into 1? If not, can you at least hold on to 2, and the rest of the pack try to get 2, 3, 4, or 4, 5, 6.
And Ding, he's stuck right now in the bottom 5, and if ShowTime can keep this up, that's definitely the win condition they need. However, Flare and FaZe completely fell behind, especially Flare. We can't even see him right now.
Yeah, Flare hasn't really been in the spotlight at all in this race so far, Peter, and I hate to say it, but I think if you're ShowTime right now, you kind of have to just disregard where he's at. If FaZe can even try to get into 6th place, you have a couple more options for ShowTime, but right now, Monster looks like he wants to contest for at least number 2, and Jung says no. He tries to aggress against Monster, and Monster is actually going to be forced to hit into the wall just a bit there.
Yeah, just absolutely a ping pong fest for Monster right now. He's trying to look for the inners and outers, but he keeps knocking into the members of ROX.
Yeah, and FaZe trying to play quite aggressively. He's going for those kind of slicing drifts even in the little sections, and while he bumped into the walls, he's able to keep up the boost to try to keep up, but Duzzi closes him out as they start to enter the hairpins.
But FaZe does manage to pass by now. Now he is holding that rear for Monster. 1, 2, 3 still being held very strong for ROX. Monster's doing all he can to come across, so is FaZe, now getting into that 3rd place spot.
You gotta at least break into 2nd, right? You gotta break apart that 1-2, because the 1-2 is a guaranteed win regardless of the rest of the positions, but they're aggressing a little bit too much, and as soon as one player gets blocked off, the entire team falls behind, and now it's a clean 1, 2, 3, 4 for ROX.
Duzzi completely blocked out the line from Ghost there, and after that, it seems all momentum is lost for ShowTime, and Seongnam ROX with the 1, 2, 3, 4 finish.
Wow, Duzzi with a little celebration 360 at the end as well, a little bit of a spin turn. But yeah, you mentioned it, Peter. We called it during the race. As soon as Duzzi's able to block off 1, because they were all so close up against each other, ShowTime, the entire roster actually starts to fall apart as they're trying to avoid colliding even into each other. They're not able to really keep up any of their speed or the boost. And it is as big of a lead as it can be, right? 29-10, 1, 2, 3, 4 finish here for ROX Esports.
Yeah, now ROX Esports just needs 1 more win. So ShowTime, they need to somehow look for the comeback angle in the next track, which is chosen by ROX themselves. So it is looking pretty dire.
Yeah, and the next one's not going to be an easy one, right? We're going to Village Boom Hill Tunnel, a notably difficult track, and a couple nifty little things you can do, especially towards the end with the last jump and a couple of the shortcuts, but curious to see what ROX Esports' plan is. Now, we should mention, I mean, ShowTime, they still got item mode that they can bank on.
Of course, you know, you could always go to the ace match and pray that your member who represents your team can win against Show.
Yeah, I mean, that's always tough. But we saw it in that first replay. Player actually gets bumped out a little bit and hits the pillar on the first bridge, and he's not able to really try to catch back up until much later. He actually still does somehow try to get into the middle of the pack, but by then the entire team had let up the lead.
Those obstacles can definitely really mess you up. We've seen a lot of the players emphasize focusing a lot of their practice time on reducing mistakes rather than trying to pop off and be first place necessarily every time.
Yeah, it's about that consistency, especially in squad mode, so we'll see. Can Seongnam ROX keep up the lead, trying to wrap this up 3-1 in speed mode? We'll find out in Village Boom Hill Tunnel.
Off we go into round number 4. This is match point for Seongnam ROX. They had really good showing so far today against ShowTime, and let's see if they can continue that.
All right, well, ShowTime, I mean, because the start is a bit wider, they have a bit of an easier time with the beginning, and Flare and Monster now trying to keep the lead, and this is what you mentioned, Peter. ShowTime has mentioned that they want Flare to perform well. They've already given him the first place, so in Monster, he's a little too busy trying to block, and he runs into the corner himself a third time in a row.
Yeah, but I kind of like it for Monster because I feel like it also threw off the lines of the members of ROX. However, the recovery is insane. This is why Jung is highlighted so much. Ding and Jung combo at 3-4. This is putting a lot of pressure on the 1-2.
Yeah, and Ghost, he knows that because of the way the rest of his teammates' positions are, he wants to try to just make sure they get the 1 and 2. But Ding, he's already putting pressure onto Flare as well. And all Ding is doing right now is trying to force mistakes. They're getting into the bridge. We're entering the last couple sections of the race.
And nobody took the different build on the bridge there. Everyone's sticking to the classic lines as we see now. Flare and Ghost, they're hitting the walls, but they're still holding that 1-3.
But Spell, he tries to greed on that shortcut a bit. Ghost will be able to close him out. Currently, a bit of a still chance for ShowTime. They're in the lead. Ding, if he can overtake first place, things might change, but still just holding on to a 1-point lead. Can ShowTime? They barely finish just enough to be able to keep the lead, and they will be taking it to another track.
Man, when I saw Jung coming in, all of a sudden, I got a bit worried for ShowTime because the points were so close. They actually won 20-19, just a single point ahead. And it seems like we're going to match number 5, Will.
Yeah, we're going to that last track in speed mode already off the bat. And I'll say it, right? I'll be the one to say it. I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look good for ROX, right?
Definitely not.
As much as, yes, I'm all for new talent shining, it's great to see new generations, but ROX, I mean, speed mode was supposed to be where you were indomitable, and if you're already looking like you're not able to dominate some of these newer names that are showing up, oof, I don't know, that roster, it's not looking as stable as people would have wanted here in the opening match.
And on top of that, out of the rookie teams that we've seen coming into Preseason 2, ShowTime was the team that had the most amount of rookies possible. So ROX, they're definitely wanting to prove why they're the veterans here and take that match number 5, hopefully, because item mode, I might give a slight advantage to ShowTime over ROX.
Yeah, I mean, just because of ROX's record, right? Of course, they do have a roster change, and we'll see how that works out. But for now, it's still all about speed mode. We go to track number 5. It is Glacier Extreme Stadium. And they're off. Match point here for speed mode. Try to see which team can keep the lead in this team match before they go into item mode. Monster kicking things off with the lead here for ShowTime.
If we look at the positions, it's pretty spread apart evenly. There's no one that's taking too big of a lead, I was about to say, but 1-3-4 for ROX, that is that big lead they're looking for.
Yeah, and the front of the pack is starting to try to spread out the lead. Of course, the hairpins, the famous hairpins, show up once again here at the end for Glacier Extreme Stadium, and that's a decent chance for people to try to catch up, especially if there's a lot of battles. But a good block from Spell will keep Ghost at bay.
Ghost is supposed to be the runner for ShowTime. He's took a 5-0-7-2 build, which is what the runners of the teams do, but so far it's always been Monster in the lead, just completely surrounded by the members of ROX.
Yeah, and if you really want to take advantage of that 5-0-7-2, you really got to be good about your boost management and your timings. And so far it's not. Oh no, ShowTime! They just get knocked all over the track. They're on the last jump.
Yeah, this is looking absolutely disastrous right now. Monster, he's so far away from even 1, 2, 3 to try to contest anything, and now even Duzzi, he's just gonna stroll right past and say, hey, your place is in 5th place, buddy.
Yeah, and Duzzi, I mean, he can play things fairly safely, right? And he can try to aggress against Monster, or even just block off another member of ShowTime. It does not look like there is a shot here for ShowTime. And I gotta say, yes, I love the aggression coming out from ShowTime. I love that they're trying to just gain whatever lead they can, but it's also leading to a lot of mistakes in a couple of these tracks.
Yeah, and Duzzi alone, he's keeping Ghost at bay, now trying to look for that press over, but how does it matter when Jung is so far ahead and he's only in 3rd spot?
Oh my god, is Duzzi gonna go for a straight boost here to try to knock off Ghost? We're not gonna find out, but it does look like both of them land safely on the mini-map, but at the end of the day, it's a 1-2, even a 1-2-3 finish for ROX, and they will be able to take that speed mode win.
You know, I feel like they have to be so reassured right now. You know, they can't be the happiest that they didn't have a clean sweep. They would have hoped for something like 3-1 at worst instead of going all the way to round number 5. But at least they won, because that's what matters. They bought some time. Even if ROX loses in item mode now, you know, they have Jung for that ace match.
It always comes down to Jung. It's just... It's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, it's true, and he's looked so good, right? He hasn't lost yet in the ace match, so yes, I guess that's something you can rely on, but it also does feel kind of bad that you have to rely on that. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Ding just saying, all right, yep, you know, it's fine. Wasn't even close, right? Was never worried. And they'll go through Ghost. We saw earlier he made a bit of a mistake on that Terracotta Twister, and he was kind of sheepishly laughing. But I would say, yes, mistakes were made, mistakes were shown, right? Even here, I mean, just trying to get a little too aggressive by the members of ShowTime. However, we can see why they made it through the qualifiers, right? The skill is definitely there. It's more about that consistency, more about that calmness to maneuver around the track.
And they were really focused throughout the whole time. Even when they lost, they didn't really seem bothered by it. You can see them going in the comms and really explaining to each other, okay guys, this is why we lost, we just need to do this better.
Yeah, and we're going to see that roster swap coming out for item mode plans. As item is showing up here for ROX Esports. Spell will be sitting this one out as they make that change. Again, if you're new to Kart Rider Drift League, this is pretty common in a lot of teams, especially if they have that 5-man roster, because item mode is a totally different style and different focus that you need to have.
And we see Fraud, the oldest member that we talked about for ShowTime, being that kind of leader figure that the youngsters kind of want to rely on for the shot calling, especially helpful in a mode like item mode.
Yep, so Fraud right here on the camera. He's warming up. Of course, he was sitting by watching that speed mode. I mean, I gotta say, if you're ShowTime, yes, it's unfortunate that you lost, but hey, you still made it a 3-2 in speed mode. Nothing to be, embarrassed about as you're going up against one of the pro teams here in KDL. Now you gotta focus up for item mode.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good thing for the mentality to be able to go all the way into that round 5, because that means you definitely showed your prowess before you went down. As we take a look at the item track list, London Knight, a very familiar one picked up by ROX first.
Yeah, we saw it being picked more and more, especially ever since Liv Sandby showed, some good tech on that track. A lot more teams started to pick that one up, so ROX will be continuing that for track number 1. And then we go to Pharaoh's Pass, Town Hall, Cogwheel, and Motherlode. Fairly familiar tracks here, despite some of the changes that we've seen coming into the track list.
For sure, Pharaoh's Pass, Cogwheel Crush was the pick for ShowTime, so we're not getting to see some of the newest stuff like Shark's Wake. It was banned out by ROX Esports. I guess they haven't had the best performances during practice on there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's also just, you don't really know what works best, right? And if you're already a team that wasn't known for your item mode, you really want to work on the basics, the fundamentals. And again, not just the tracks, but the item mode meta overall in terms of just the pure chances that you have of getting certain items was changed coming into this preseason. And then a couple extra changes just this past week. So we'll have to wait to see what teams have figured out. But right now, it's going to be all about ShowTime. Can they bring this to an ace match? Can they get the victory in item mode as we go into track number 1 on World Tour London Knight?
Off we go. This is the first showing here in KDL Preseason 2 between ROX and ShowTime in item mode. Let's see what new meta they have experimented with during their practice.
Yeah, so overall, also something else we're seeing is, of course, the item log can now be toggled on and off in your own games as well, so we can really keep track of who's using what, whether it was successful, whether it was blocked, things like that over on the left side of your screens. That's been very nice to see here in these matches. But just if you haven't really been keeping up with the patch notes, something to note is basically the aggressive items, right? The attacking items, the general chances you have of getting them have been increased. Some of the defensive items has been decreased a bit. Meanwhile, if you're first place, you really are pretty much only getting shields.
Right, we are looking at that really happening right now. We saw the players with the shields. They were at the front, absorbing a lot of the aggro. And right now we're looking at Duzzi holding on to that Lightning. And we know Lightning can be really strong, especially when your opponent doesn't have Angel.
Yeah, and of course he's got that EMP that can now block magnets as well, and that alone should be able to shut down a lot of the previous meta that we used to see that was solely focused around magnets and boosts. We'll have to see if that will be used, and so far it's already been cycled out. Now, one other thing to note is Angels. They only block one attack each at this point, so maybe we see that Lightning from Duzzi really play a role here as we go into the third lap.
He's definitely holding on to it. We know that... Oh, never mind.
Well,
he was using it right here.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to cycle through it so that they can have, keep the lead, see what else they can get. I mean, right now, ROX, they have double Angel, so they are able to still try to block off two things. They also have two EMPs, one being cycled out by Jung. I think Jung maybe wants to go for another shield, and he's going to get it, and that allows him to just use the Angel safely. Ding will use the Magnetized teammate, tried to jump up top. He's going to miss it, so Jung now getting back into first place.
Yeah, Ding really was looking for that momentum, but it was killed off. Now it's Duzzi and Jung in the lead. The Water Wisp is going to connect. Flare looking for the advantage.
Oh, and the boost comes in for Fraun, and he's been saving that up, and he gets a clean finish in first place on track number 1.
A great showing from ShowTime right off on track number 1 of Item. World Tour London Night was picked by ROX themselves, so what a great way to tell them, even if you guys pick the track, we are simply more organized when it comes to Item.
Yeah, and I gotta say that kind of attempt, I like the idea, right? Using the magnet on Jung to try to get up to the upper part of the track. Make sure you can try to keep that lead with the built-in boost on the track. However, not only was Duzzi missing it himself, but then Jung was also slowed down just a bit as he was trying to knock off to the side to make way for Duzzi. And at the end of the day, both of them not able to keep the lead against ShowTime.
I really like that ShowTime was able to capitalize off of the plan of ROX kind of coming to a falter there through unfortunate circumstances. You can tell, looking at ShowTime, that this is a team that's not really your typical rookie. They know what they're doing, they know what got them to this phase of KDL, and it seems like they're not afraid to keep showing their cohesion.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the more you think about it, I mean, just those boosts on their own might provide some more value. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go into the track. It is track number 2 as ShowTime currently leads 1-0 on Desert Pharaoh's Pass. And they're off. Track number 2, ShowTime leading 1-0 on item round, trying to bring this to an ace match.
As we see the shield being held by Flare, looking to absorb that missile coming out, of course. And the EMP waves are a bit early right now. They're not going to see much use.
Yeah, those will probably get cycled out just a bit here. Flare actually holding on to 2. Definitely doesn't need both of those. Water bombs coming out as well. We talked about it during the pre-show, or opening of the show rather, where water bombs and Wisp, they gained a little bit more relative strength because of the balloons now being able to kind of nerf out the effects from the missiles. However, that recent patch, that's also added effects for the balloons against the water Wisp and balloons as well, so you can get out of that lock just a bit quicker.
Speaking of the patch, Will, you were talking earlier about the boost, so you could maybe elaborate on that a bit more now.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to mention right now that magnets have been nerfed in their strength as well, and then on top of that, them being able to get EMP'd out, there's a lot of things now that are going to have a counter. Meanwhile, the boost itself, I mean, when you use it, you're going to shoot forward, right? You know exactly what you're getting, you know the value you're getting, so it's a bit more of a guaranteed usage. Of course, you can still be body blocked or hit by a water balloon, things like that. Curious to see if that turns into the game plan as we get lined up for the last track of each race.
Yeah, now we're seeing Ding. He's completely out of the minimap to the right. He has a huge lead right now, and the magnets are being held by FaZe. The question is, can he even get in range to target Ding? Look at him on the map.
Yeah, what happened? As I was talking, I didn't even realize that's how far ahead he was. That
Where's
is
Sting?
Oh my gosh, and he's still got another shield going. I mean, the only thing that's going to slow him down is going to be a UFO. Okay, now he's out
finally.
of shields. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but again, the balloon, right? It makes it so the missile only has that.
Again.
Oh, okay, that's enough. That can keep him at bay, and FaZe will be able to go through it
again.
He's getting hit by literally everything. FaZe trying to keep the lead, but he keeps getting locked up. You saw how quickly he was able to get out because of that balloon.
Everyone's getting bullied right now, up and top, spinning. This is a dancing competition.
Yeah, but Jung he does have that boost, and Ding getting into first place. He gets locked up, but Jung had that boost. He has another one as well.
Gets spin again into the barricade.
Duzzi, can he finish? He will be able to secure that first place for his team.
Oh my goodness, the offensive items are just coming through in preseason 2, left and right, back and forth, and I'm loving it, Will.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nice change, right? It is a little chaotic for us. We have to follow the action, but that's what we're here for. And I gotta say, as chaotic as it is, I like that we're seeing just a lot more aggression here in the item mode. We really didn't know what was gonna happen. I thought Jung was just clear to go because he had double boost going into that last couple corners.
Yeah, ROX, they were just so on point in this round number 2 of item mode, we must say, because I thought when Jung got just completely locked out by all those items that it could have been dire for them, but all the members were right behind him and they were able to keep pick back up where he was.
Yeah, so ROX will be able to even things out. I mean, that was really anybody's race, so ShowTime, I'm sure they're a little miffed they weren't able to secure that. Their attacks were good. But however, as they were trying to get into that first place, they get hit by one of those UFOs that was saved up for a long time. Again, we got to mention that UFO doesn't come by too easily, especially if you're in the lead, you're not getting it. So sometimes if you're on track 2, maybe you save it up.
Yeah, I really like the shot calling coming out from Fron there, so I'm excited to see what more they will show us in round number 2. It will be, or round number 3, it'll be in Village Town Hall. Off we go. We begin this crazy hectic item round 3. I'm loving this new meta we're seeing in Season 2, Will.
Yeah, it's a great change. And of course, this is one of those tracks that, you know, has been renewed and returned for Kart Rider Drift. It wasn't in when the game launched. We're seeing it now in this current season of Kart Rider Drift. For those who are familiar with the original game, of course, it had a theme change now coming over to the Village theme. And I kind of like it, right? The fresh colors of the Village theme. It looks nice here for Town Hall.
Yeah, now we're seeing the players, they're definitely having so many missiles and water bombs. That's dominating the inventory by far, which is unlike the players of last season where they were trying to pick up the boosters and the magnets even in lap number 1.
Yeah, I mean, you try to save that up. If you get another boost, you use it, things like that. But right now, especially now, we see a lot of aggression with the missiles. I mean, we're seeing the log just really rack things up. And the reason they're able to just quickly fire it off is because you're not going to knock someone completely out of the race anyway, right? It's just a spin out now with the balloons. I mean, in the pro matches, everyone's going to have that balloon stocked up. And so it's no surprise that it's constantly being used to try to keep contention. But again,
monster.
We're seeing another player way out in front. And we should note, he has an EMP. And being in first place, he has a great chance of continuing to stock up on shields. That missile is going to hit, and it does slow him down a lot there as he's actually just trying to wait to pass things by, try to regain some of those items.
Falls back all the way into 6th place off of that monster. Now, looking to gain some of that lead again, but he crashes right into the barricade. Now, it's Duzzi holding that lead for ROX. A lot of the players are kind of balanced out right now in the front 4.
Yeah, and because of the item changes, we see that a lot of these players are trying to keep their distance or maybe stop in first place to try to make sure they have a better advantage of gaining some of these items. Now, Fron going to start shooting forward. He does have a magnet in his own pocket as well, but the most important thing is double angel here for ShowTime.
ShowTime absolutely looking pretty good right now in their position as Jung, the 3rd place contender, he does get spinned out. Now there's 500 meters left. Jung uses the magnet, but it does get canceled out.
Yeah, and another angel popped and another shield, but the UFO isn't good enough. Flare trying to block him off, but he gets hit by the Wisp, and Jung will be able to slide right through the finish line.
Huge Wisp there. That was the absolute perfect timing you can get on that item, and now ROX, we were talking about them having a weak item mode, but already up to 1 against ShowTime. This could be that new Seongnam ROX buff we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. You love to see it. They don't look as lost in the item mode anymore. Now, I'm sure even, all the players currently participating in KDL Preseason 2, I'm sure all of them agree that, okay, we still don't know what the exact meta is just yet, right? We even had a couple extra changes last week coming into the league. We'll have to wait to see how things shake up. However, ROX, the calling seems to be there. Their head seems to be in the game. It's a great change to see.
Plan Z, the item ace, coming in absolutely clutch for ROX, and we talked about Ding being a player of balance, being good at both item and speed, and so far he has shown that.
Yeah, and using the magnet early on just to catch up. Now Flair thought he was safe, but the UFOs come out, and he has another shield. But this is what we're talking about. The water wisp now has so much value because it still puts you up in the air. You stop entirely. Sure, the balloon lets you get back in track just a bit quicker, but it just stops you dead in your tracks.
If only his teammate had an Angel for him there, which is why we keep emphasizing Angel as such an important item. But now we are ready for round number 4. This is match point for ROX in Factory Cogwheel Crush.
Seongnam ROX trying to close things out by winning both speed and item mode. They want to prove that they don't need to rely on those ace matches anymore.
As we see a bunch of shields across the board, as well as Angel in that top half of the standings. And FaZe looking kind of sus right now with the double water bomb. I want to see how he uses that.
Yeah, curious to see if he really holds on to it for the most opportune moment. I mean, there are a couple opportunities here on this track of Cogwheel Crush, but not all the time. There's still a little bit of leeway, as we saw there, around the radius of that water bomb.
Yeah, now Ding holding on to that double water bomb as well, but there's a lot of shields and angels as a response to it, so I'm sure the players are not too concerned. We're looking at a 2-lapper, so this is going to be a bit more fast-paced.
Yeah, and we mentioned it as we were looking at the patch notes at the beginning of the show, but of course, Angel now, the Angel Shield has been changed, so it only blocks 1 attack per person anyway. So, Jung is able to just kind of negate that missile entirely by going through the shortcut there. Love to see that.
Yeah, that was a great usage of that one. As we see now, ROX, Lanzy being in the lead pretty strongly as we enter lap number 2. Fran is doing what he can to make sure he's kept in check.
All right, so Plan Z, while he was slowed down just a bit, he's happy to kind of let go of that first place. See if they can get any UFOs to try to really slow down Flair.
My.
Ooh, good water bomb.
Yeah, that locked out 2 members of ROX specifically, and now 3 members of ShowTime at the top looking really good.
Yeah, and Flair looks fairly safe. I mean, no EMP in hand just yet, but Fran's got one in his own pocket. He's got a lightning to respond as well. Flair still gets a shield. No longer, though. He can't get that quick boost right off the drop from the Wisp either.
The chain attacks absolutely killed momentum there. Now Ding, the water bomb goes amiss, and now Ding is in the lead.
Yeah, he still has 1 more shield, so unless a UFO comes out, it does come out. Fran's got it ready to go. Ding will be slowed down. Jung gets slowed down by a missile as well. Monster trying to catch up here towards the end.
Monster holding on to that water bomb. He's just going to throw it out to Cycle. He's got a magnet and a booster now. That could be big because Ding does not have an EMP wave.
Yeah, Monster is in prime position. He already uses his boost because they still have other members trying to catch up. However, Planzy trying to make sure he stays in the lead, and Ding is safe. No, it's actually going to be his teammates who boost and magnet off of each other over the top there on the shortcut. And it's going to be ROX wrapping things up 31 in item mode.
The parade of ROX, as we saw the players come in, we were looking at what is the color? Is it blue, red? But it was all red, and my goodness, ROX coming in 3-1 into item mode. That is a great way to start off their season here in Preseason 2.
Yeah, not something that we could say often or at all really for ROX in Preseason 1, right? It always went down to the wire to that ace match. But yes, while the speed mode, ShowTime put up a pretty decent fight, I would say the improvements in item mode absolutely present here for Seongnam ROX.
And I guess the one sad takeaway is that on day 1, we're not going to get to see Jung pull off his magic, continue on his winning streak, get his 6th one unofficially, if you connect the 2 preseasons together. But that also just shows how much stronger this new lineup, the Seongnam buff, did for ROX Esports.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. While we didn't get to see him in the ace match, of course, now he is in the solo matches as well, right? He got through the qualifiers with no surprise. So you'll still see him race more often than not here in KDL Preseason 2. But for today, ROX ROX will make short work of ShowTime with winning both speed and item mode.
And I must give props to ShowTime. Despite having had a poor performance, I must say, from their runner today, Monster was a player that was constantly just in the higher ranks and a player that absolutely stands out. So as long as the other players are able to put on a better form next time and support Monster more, I'm sure they'll be one of the stronger rookie teams that we've seen so far.
I also just want to give a quick shout out to ShowTime's logo. It kind of looks like a logo of a show on, you know, kind of Saturday morning cartoons or something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice little throwback to that type of design. So all props to them. But I got to say, I think you keep your eyes on this team, right? Yes, there were mistakes, but if you clean that up, if you gain your experience here during preseason 2, whether it's the entire squad or whether it's just a couple of these rookie players, I think they'll continue to make a name for themselves here in Kart Rider Drift League.
And I must say, the body checks have been on point, just going crazy. All the players have been constantly trying to throw off the lines of other players, even at the cost of their own lines. For instance, bouncing off the wall multiple times. And sometimes it has led to disastrous results where you end up falling back to 7 or 8 and you can't recover. But other times it has also worked out well, so it's kind of like a risk to reward balance.
Yeah, and of course, on the other side for ROX, even within the squad match of speed mode, they weren't entirely relying on Jung anymore, right? There was a lot of teamwork being shown there. If they're able to get Ding in front and then Jung or Duzzi into 2nd or 3rd place, then they feel pretty safe. The rest of them can kind of play that blocking role, the guard role for the rest of their team.
Thumbs up to ROX. They did a good job picking up Ding. It was the right thing to do. They got that item buffed.
It was the right thing to do. Yep, it was the right thing to do. Sorry, I had to chime in there for that one. But yeah, you're right. I mean, yes, again, the score line maybe a bit closer than you would have wanted just because ROX is a pro team. They looked good in the speed mode in last preseason, but the item mode definitely looks a lot better. And maybe part of that is also the meta change. Maybe it suits them better to just kind of go all out on aggression, cycle through those items, and really figure out, kind of keep everyone on their toes until that last second.
That's a great point, actually, because I feel like when it comes to the speed mode of Kart Rider Drift, you can't really get too much of a meta shift there unless you change up some of the fundamentals, like bringing in balloons that do completely different effects. But for item mode, it's all about the items, right, that decides the outcome of the match, because something like we've seen earlier, a water wisp that's timed perfectly when your opponent doesn't have an angel can completely stop a player out of 1st place into 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to continue to see that evolution here throughout the preseason too. So we'll have to wait till things kind of shake up, but it's no longer just about the madness and boost. But ladies and gentlemen, we do have more matches ready for today, as you can see on your screens. The next one is going to be the reigning champs of preseason, KWANGDONGFREECS, going up against another new team potential. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's match number 2. Welcome back, everyone. I told you it was going to be a short break, and that it was as we get ready for match number 2 in the team matches of KDL Preseason 2. It is going to kick things off with the champions of Preseason 1, KWANGDONGFREECS.
And this is the only team coming into Preseason 2 that has kept their roster exactly the same. And that in itself is a big advantage in esports because you don't need to go through that whole process of building up that teamwork and the trust from the ground up again. So this might be the strongest team we're looking at so far.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? When they won, in Preseason 1, and then even Cool being able to lift up that solo match through, the win himself, it was very apparent that they are currently dominating Kartrider Drift. Of course, we're still only in the preseason as we try to ramp up towards the launch of KDL later in the year. We'll see if they are able to keep up the lead. Currently, they will be challenged by a new team potential, but not all entirely new faces as we saw in the photo right there.
Potential definitely is the rookie team out of the 3 that has the most amount of players that we're probably familiar with, especially if you watched Preseason 1 of KDL. Banana with his signature clap. I love it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he was kind of that item guy showing up for Finale Esports. They didn't have a great finish, but he lands on a new roster here with a new group of racers on potential. Now, outside of Taman and Banana, though, coming over from Finale Esports, the rest of the squad, it's all their first time here in KDL, right? Some of them have a little bit of experience in solo matches, and even within KDL, maybe in the original Kartrider League, but it's all their first time in team matches for KDL.
And that's why I really love their team name Potential, because they also describe themselves as players like gems with undiscovered potential, so I hope they're able to shine the brightest in Season 2.
Our 4 is greater than 5. Well, they definitely proved that in Preseason 1, right? Everyone else trying to balance things out with an item ace, and KWANGDONGFREECS says that we don't need any of that. We will continue to just work with our core 4, make that work as a team. And looking at the builds here, looks like Spear going for that 5-2-7-0, but 7-2-5-0 for World as well, even as Speed Ace.
Yeah, 3 runners and 1 Speed Ace position. How often do you see that? And KWANGDONGFREECS with a very wholesome message. Hello, welcome, and fighting, which means, good luck, get your spirits up, try hard, do good.
Yeah, I mean, it also just shows confidence, right? No need to go all out in the taunt when you know that you're the best so far here for KWANGDONGFREECS. You proved yourself in Preseason 1 just a month ago, and they're here to do it again here in Preseason 2.
Yeah, definitely potential. Although this roster has undiscovered potential, that's only, we're talking by theory, right? They haven't really shown it yet, so KWANGDONGFREECS being the strongest giant right now, not afraid of their opponents. But on the other hand, if Potential gets an upset win today against the Freaks, that is the best win and the beginning to their journey they could hope for.
Yeah, and where, you saw it, Peter mentioned it earlier, the potential shown in the prelims. Can they continue to prove that here? Now, the prelims, overall, pretty good finishes. Now, not always going to be in that first place in each round of the qualifiers. However, they even took Sensation to an ace match. I mean, they're showing that they have what it takes to try to compete, but can they pull it off on the main stage?
How about starting this season with 1 loss, says Potential to KWANGDONGFREECS, and that is exactly what they're hoping for, that they walk away with at the end of the day.
Yeah, and this has extra meaning, right? Because KWANGDONGFREECS, they're able to go through almost the entirety of the round robin in Preseason 1 undefeated. I mean, they go on that huge win streak off the start, eventually still claiming that champion title in team matches. So, curious to see KWANGDONGFREECS, will they have that hot start once again, or can Potential put a little bit of a damper on it?
I feel like Best, he is a player that's been known for showing a lot of good performances in the online iteration of Kartrider Drift, so hopefully he's able to keep his mental in check and not get too nervous today.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, we are looking at the speed track list, and KWANGDONGFREECS, they won the coin flip. They take speed priority, and they will be bringing things up on Construction Chaos first.
Construction Chaos is super tricky, but so is Winding Slopes. We're seeing a lot of the harder tracks not being shied away from by the teams. There's Boom Hill Tunnel, 3 shortcuts, which is a new name to me.
Yep, Mine 3 shortcuts showing up on the speed track list here for the team matches here in KDL Preseason 2, and then we go back to old familiar Glacier Extreme Stadium if it goes to round 5. Now, I do find this interesting that potential they pick Mine Winding Slopes because while KWANGDONG FREECS is an incredibly strong team, that was one of those tracks where they never looked too strong, right? Even some of the dramatic wins they had were dramatic in and of themselves, barely able to get the super play towards the end to try to win or something like that. You know, towards the end of the season in the finals, they didn't look great on it, so we'll see if that happens as an upset in round 2, but we kick things off with track number 1, the choice from KWANGDONG FREECS. Here in speed mode, it is going to be Desert Construction Chaos. And we are off. The winners from Preseason 1, KWANGDONG FREECS, trying to defend their honor and reputation against the new squad of Potential.
And Potential looking good right now with Temin already in the front. However, Best Summer Wave sitting at 6, 7, 8 since the beginning is not what you're looking for. This is a 2-lapper. Now Temin falling behind as well.
Yeah, and I also just gotta say, while we're still in the beginning parts of this race, their name always throws me off because they're shortened to PO, and all I can think about is playoffs when you see PO, but it is Potential. It stands for that team, and Taemin getting knocked around just a bit, but still able to keep his recovery as we go into the kind of winding sections of Construction Chaos.
It's a side effect of being a caster.
Yes.
PO definitely does have that effect on you. So we got to remember now, Potential, that is their name. And I'm sure if they can show us a good performance, we will start remembering. Spear right now is in the back, completely just doing his job as a sweeper. Summer, he cannot get a break.
Yeah, Spear does his best. And while sure, Spear is going to fall behind, like you mentioned, Peter, what he did was keep everyone behind as they try to avoid him as well. So we see a lot of chaos happening in those last 90-degree corners, and we do see Spear making great use of that. The first 1, 2, 3 positions well ahead as we go into lap number 2.
And now we see Spear coming up all the way into 4th to push Temin out of line. That was beautifully done by Spear, and he's on to his next target already. Summer is right up next. This guy is unrelentless. Spear.
This is incredible from Spear. I mean, the way he's just being able to manage that he's still keeping his own race, and he's keeping everyone at bay one by one. I mean, this is a 1v4 we are witnessing here. Spear tries to knock Best out, but here's the thing. Even if he lets 1 or 2 members pass, he's already done such a great job that the 1, 2, 3 position is so safe for KWANGDONG FREECS.
KWANGDONG FREECS just strolling along right now saying, Big Brother Spear, do your job for us, and we're just going to focus on our own lines. As we see Best, you know, he's in that 4th place trying to get across, but all the time they're so close to Spear, they can't buy that distance away.
Oh my god, this is incredible. This is a bit of a masterclass being shown from Spear. The race is pretty much already over as we're going to see the 1, 2, 3 finish with no contention whatsoever. A very hefty lead as well, just about 3 seconds, I think, which is a long time in Kart Rider Grip.
Yeah, the whole time the observer was focused on the back line. How often do we see that? 1, 2, 3, Sungbin, World, and Cool weren't even on camera because they didn't need to be, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, they were basically playing time attack, right? They weren't really doing anything else special there. And it was all thanks to Spear, and yeah, just about 2.5 seconds lead from Sungbin all the way to Best, who was the forerunner here for Potential. And this is really, it's not even anything against Potential, it's really just Spear doing such a great job.
Yeah, and you can see the laughter on the faces of KWANGDONG FREECS, feeling very confident after that first win, just adding on to the amount of confidence they've already had from Season 1.
Yeah, I mean, we could pick out the entire race here for Spear and it would be a highlight. But look at that. He overtakes Temin on the outside, and then he's able to get in between them, shuts off Temin on these corners, forces Summer to be blocked off as he's trying to contest against Spear, potentially pressuring him again. I mean, just the amount of his presence alone creating so much pressure, and some of these forced errors, rather, coming out from KWANGDONG FREECS.
When players talk about the players in KWANGDONG FREECS, it's always about World and Spear. You know, World being that consistent guy for the team, always doing good, while Spear is the one that really carries the team by taking the risky body checks, but he always makes them work somehow, living up to his name and nickname.
Yeah, I mean, he had that dramatic win in Winding Slopes as well, blocking off 2 members of Live Sandbox in the last jump in Preseason 1. See if the type of super play can come out again here in Track 2.
You definitely want to see it from KWANGDONG FREECS because they want to be that strongest team coming into the KDL, keeping it up even in Preseason 2 as we get ready for Track number 2, Mine Winding Slopes. Off we go into the track choice of Potential, so hopefully they're able to find a better way to come back against the Freaks this time.
Yeah, again, this is a very tricky track, right? And if even a team like Kwangdong Freaks doesn't really favor it much, as we're seeing again, a couple mistakes already starting to show from Kwangdong Freaks. I mean, this could be a good chance for Potential to really try to get a win on the board, try to keep themselves in the races. Now we're starting to enter a couple of these sections, a couple of the jumps where you have to drift right in through the bridge, and Seongnam will be able to keep it up.
Best.
Yeah, he's just gonna have to reset immediately. Doesn't want to lose any more speed. Presses that R key as fast as he can. Now one of those shortcuts coming off, and Kwangdong Freaks Cool gets blocked off as well alongside Wave, but I think Wave's gonna be okay with that trade. Taemin and Summer now pressuring into 3. They both enter the caves just safe right behind Seongbin.
This 1-2-3 is absolutely key right now because the team scores at 20-19. If Seongbin can keep up this first place, the Freaks have so much time on their hands to be able to build an even stronger lead. Right now, Seongbin, he's getting contested by Summer.
Yeah, and Summer and Taemin, if they can double team though, if they can keep Seongbin at bay, they get the 1-2 finish. And even if not, if they can maybe get 1-3,
Seongbin!
Oh my gosh, Seongbin just trying to do whatever he can to get back into first place. He is able to get in front of Summer. Summer will be able to try to cross him off, and Seongbin, he is knocked out of that corner, not able to keep up his speed as he enters into the jump. And the 1-2 finish for Potential.
That was a 360 turn there, and it was executed well. It worked out, and it got him into the lead for a second there. But Summer and Taemin, as you mentioned, Will, the duo, they stayed focused the whole entire time. They knew their role was to just secure 1-2, and they did absolutely just that.
I just realized Banana has banana in his profile picture. It's like the old meme, banana for scale, coming back out for Potential. But a great track choice. And we're seeing it once again. This is not one of the strongest tracks for KWANGDONG Freaks.
And that's exactly why Potential was able to pick it up. And I must say, you know, their coaching staff as well as the players already knowing the weakness of a team as mighty as KWANGDONG Freaks is going to be really important for them as the season goes on. You know, you're a rookie team, but you still don't want to go down 3-0. Showing that you can take even one match off the Freaks is huge.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is off the play from Wave, right? He just hard stops on that shortcut jump and is forcing, you know, an extra player from KWANGDONG Freaks to lose speed because he knows they have the 2-3. That gives him a good chance to just overtake Seongbin near the end. They even have both of them overtaking him towards the last jump and get a safe 1-2 finish. Puts a W on the board in speed mode.
But for round 3, we're going right over back to the choice of KWANGDONG Freaks, so things are looking scary once again. Will Potential be able to show that they are able to match up against the Freaks? Let's go to Village Boom Hill Tunnel and find out.
And we're off again. We saw this in the first race as well, but because of kind of the wide start to this track, of course, it is fairly safe for a lot of even the amateur teams to just try to keep their positions as they start to enter the rest of the track.
We're seeing Seongbin and Wave, World, and Taemin holding up that top 4, but now it's the Freaks getting more control back in their hands as we see the players. It's really hard right now for the members of Potential to cut in front of the members of KWANGDONG Freaks.
Yeah, look at the way KWANGDONG Freaks is just going through a couple of these sections, right? They're just keeping each other out of the way, make sure that you have your own lines that you can take, your own builds to keep up that speed and the boost, and they're trying to make sure they're in position to always pressure for first place. However, Taemin doing the best he can to stay in front, and Wave is sweeping for him, trying to keep Seongbin at bay.
And he's doing just that. Seongbin struggling, but he manages to break through the 2 members of Potential. Now he's holding that first place position. Wave coming in really strong with the build.
Yeah, just jumps over on the railing, and that should give him a hefty lead as he go into the shortcut section. As long as Wave doesn't make a mistake, he should be able to keep first place. However, Taemin, he's going to have to contest here for a further spot, and he puts just enough pressure to knock out one of the members of KWANGDONG Freaks.
Oh, World! He managed to knock it out, but now it's Summer holding on to that 1-2. World trying to deny it once again. Summer trying to come in.
Oh my, a 1-3-4 finish here for Potential. And they get a bit of an upset win on track number 3.
Yeah, we were saying this is the track picked by the Freaks, but Potential is looking like a completely different team right now than we expected on paper. If they're able to take a match point on speed, the potential of this team is limitless.
Yeah, I mean, if they could take, you know, two of these tracks in speed mode against, again, the reigning winners of Preseason 1, I mean, that just goes to show that they are not going to be a pushover here in Preseason 2. And the way they played this track was so good. Sure, we had Taemin losing that lead there in one of those corners towards the later part of the track. He goes a little bit too wide, just trying to make sure he makes way, but Wave takes that opportunity and says, okay, I am in position to take that reeling build. He just jumps right over it, as we saw NEAL do so often in Preseason 1, takes it, and he's able to keep the lead, and then, you know, the rest of the members of Potential continue to put pressure on the leading members of GwangDongFREECS, force a couple of those errors on the shortcuts.
It's been absolutely surprising to see such a good performance from Potential already here, Will. Definitely wasn't expecting that in day number 1, as we see. This is the moment where Taemin and World were body checking each other, and I believe this is where Seongbin gets caught off by the box.
Yeah, I mean, they're just trying to make sure they don't get bumped around by Taemin, and Seongbin takes a bit too close of a jump right to that box, and he runs right into it. That loses him the lead. And of course, the other members of GwangDongFREECS do what they can, but it's going to be Summer who's able to help finish things off as well.
And we have fans coming in even during their testing times to come cheer on their favorite teams. We are great to have you guys here, but we are ready now for track number 4, Mine 3 Shortcuts. Off we go. This is match point for Potential. They want to close it off on this against the Freaks before they get caught up on.
Yeah, we'll see. Potential, if they can get that speed mode win, it would be huge. But Cool seems to have a different idea. He says, I am done with this. I want to just make sure that we keep the lead here. Try to take it to track number 5. He does have a fairly safe lead. Now, you got to remember this track, there are several of these shortcuts here in the Magma section. However, as we see a couple players get bumped around, one of these shortcuts, it's a couple more fallouts as well. This third one, not a lot of people take, because the way you have to time your boost, sometimes it's going to be too big of a risk for you to really manage that safely.
And Cool is still maintaining that lead so well for GwangDongFREECS, and Spear doing all he can to block out Wave and Summer. He's doing that really nicely. He's just going to be able to take that 1-2 for World if he's able to catch up.
Oh, this is one of those races where, while we can't really totally tell without seeing them close up on the camera all the time, but Cool, it looks like he is just determined to say, we are going to track 5. I don't care what anybody says. I am going to race to the finish line all on my own.
Yeah, Spear making sure to constantly be in the same line as Summer to make sure that he can't take the outer and get past him. Now World coming in as well. 1, 2, 3, 5 for GwangDongFREECS on the 3rd lap. This is looking pretty dire for Potential.
Yeah, I mean, sure, on a couple of these last turns, they can try to catch up, so they're still showing up on the minimap just a tad bit, but it's really just Wave who's able to try to maybe catch up to Summer, and even then, the 1-2 position looking pretty strong. Even if Spear tries to block off Summer, basically Spear or World, they can sacrifice one of themselves to block off Summer, and they would still have the 1-2 lead. Summer trying to take that risk on the shortcut. He is able to recover on the corner as well, but again, it's Cool and Spear way too far ahead.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 finish. Picture perfect for GwangDongFREECS there. A performance, we could say, that we expected from them coming in against the rookie team, but now they're able to pull that off in round 4. So now it's a question of who has the better momentum between these two teams, because a single round will determine the set point.
Yeah, absolutely, and like you mentioned, this is the type of form, right? I mean, Cool, just like his name, ice cold racing on that track of Mine 3 Shortcuts. Just says, I'm not giving up anything to anybody as I keep that first place. His teammates all able to line up afterwards, and will be taking us to track 5.
You know, it's really the picture-perfect strategy for GwangDongFREECS when you don't need Spear to even do the blocking anymore. You saw how comfortable they are in their positions, that Spear was the one who said, all right, well, I'm just going to maintain 1-2 with Cool then until World catches up. And then when World gets a lead, maybe then I'll fall behind and start doing some sweeping. And in the end, he didn't even need to do that.
Yeah, really no other particular strategy needed there for GwangDongFREECS other than just race well, go fast. And we'll see if they can continue it on track number 5. It is going to be Glacier Extreme Stadium. And they are off as we go into set point here for speed mode. Potential versus KWANGDONGFREECS. KWANGDONGFREECS trying to prove that they were the winners of Preseason 1 for a good reason.
And we're looking at Wave having a really nice advantage right now. Of course, Summer and Best trying to come up in the flank to support that measure. But Spear, he's able to take that first place.
Yeah, Summer looks like he is just going to try to go for a couple of those slice drifts to really keep up and boost and charge up the team boost gauge as well. However, KWANGDONGFREECS, the first two members, Spear and Cool, they look well ahead in that front, and they are in position to keep Taemin at bay as well.
We know what happened in round 4 when Cool has a lead. He rarely gives it up, especially when he has a bodyguard like Spear, so Taemin has quite the task ahead of him. Maybe he might want to keep contesting for 1-2, while Summer, he needs to secure at least that 4th spot.
Yeah, as they entered the hairpins, Taemin went for a quick extra cutting drift there, and he was able to get doubles team boost. However, it wasn't enough to fully catch up, and Summer now, he has to contest against Seongnam and World, so not able to support his teammate either.
Taemin, he's trying to break through, but now it's Cool's job to do the sweeping. Spear in a healthy lead right now. KWANGDONGFREECS 1-2-4-5 looking unstoppable.
Yeah, and look at Seongnam just pushing up to support as well, is able to boost straight through some of those corners. Now, as we start to enter the hairpin, a lot of potential is in position to contest. However, World and Seongnam, what can they do to keep the entire squad of potential at bay?
Taemin, he's trying to look for the breakthrough. Seongnam trying to get in the lines of the members of Potential. Spear and Cool has such a big lead right now, and the track, there's not much of it left.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't break through that second place position, there is no hope for Potential. They're doing what they can, and Seongnam, he's just pressuring to try to force a mistake. Cool looks like he's already too far ahead in that second place position. Best trying to take a close jump, and he does take a very ideal one, but it's just a bit too late. As KWANGDONGFREECS, they will get the 1, 2, and 3 finish.
My goodness, that was such a close matchup between KWANGDONGFREECS and Potential. Ultimately, it was the Freaks that took the set point as we expected. However, Potential, they're really showing up today, and I wonder how much more this team can show us in the upcoming item mode.
Yeah, I am curious, right? The speed mode, it didn't look too bad. I mean, KWANGDONGFREECS, it's kind of a given that they're going to look dominant. If anything, I would say not even the Winding Slopes win, but the win on Village Boomhill Tonal was a big one for Potential, really showing, as their name does, potential of what their roster can do. Curious to see if it carries over into item mode.
Yeah, and of course, we are now going to see the members of KWANGDONGFREECS not changing up their roster at all. This is one of the few teams that opts to not have a item ace, and so far they haven't got punished for it in Preseason 1. They were still pretty good at item modes without that person.
Yeah, right. I mean, even without an item ace, they weren't losing every single item mode. Sure, sometimes they had to rely on those ace matches, and they did quite well on that front as well. But they weren't entirely being pushed over. ROX was always kind of seen as the weakest item mode team, so we'll see. Potential, can they now put that same pressure? And there's Banana. A little bit of good showmanship. You always love to see him on stage. But again, you could see it in his face in Preseason when he wasn't happy with what he was able to do as that item ace back on Finale.
Definitely, Banana is a player that we have very high expectations for, and he has a new clean slate in Preseason 2 to start off strong, and hopefully we'll see that as we take a look at the item track list. We're seeing Glacier Shark's Wake, which is a track that I really wanted to see picked by Potential first.
Yeah, again, one of those tracks that are kind of making their appearance here in KDL in Preseason 2, alongside Village Town Hall that was added in to the tracks coming in to this new season of Cartwrighter Drift. Afterwards, we go to Sphinx's Riddle, Brody's Gloom, and Clock Tower Crossing. So a lot of new faces for item mode specifically here in KDL. See if we see some new changes. We saw a lot of aggression in the meta in the very first match. Curious to see if that carries over here for match number 2.
I know Banana really likes Clock Tower Crossing as a track because this is a track where it actually matters to stay ahead. We've seen so many times where if a player goes ahead into first place, they eventually do get caught up on. But in this track, it's really hard to do that, so I hope we get to that track number 5.
Well, we'll see if it can get there. We already made it to track number 5 in speed mode. Potential, can they take us to that intense last hour of match number 2? Find out as we kick things off on Glacier Shark's Wake.
Off we go between the first showing of an item round showdown between Potential and KWANGDONGFREECS. We're going to see a lot of shields being prioritized in the early game to absorb some of that aggro.
Yeah, and the missiles just got to be constantly spammed out as we see them, just spin out still, but it's going to have a lot of effect if you can continue to tie them together like that. Spear does get an early UFO. I can't imagine he's going to keep it for too long, as it is just lap 1 of 3.
We're seeing that lightning for Spear. There's a Angel on the side of Wave, so maybe he's waiting for that to be swapped out. And a lot of spins. I feel like this is going to be a factor that we're going to constantly see in Preseason 2 item modes.
Yeah, I mean, especially with missiles now just having that effect, and again, attacking items, aggressive items having a much better chance of being picked up. Here's to see some good water bombs, of course. As you enter that bridge, you can't really dodge it. You got to be able to shield it up.
Yeah, World with a really nice dodge on Banana there, going between the barricade as well. Now, Seongnam and Cool with a nice lead for KWANGDONGFREECS. Summer trying to come up. There's a shield on the side of Seongnam, so if he can maintain this lead, it's going to be huge because now he has 2 shields as well.
Yeah, so he's safe from any attacks, but of course the magnets and UFOs will still be able to keep him slowed down. We're curious to see UFO just used by Summer, so that buys a little bit of time and brings him back into view for the rest of the racers.
Seongnam still having that double shield. He's trying to absorb that aggro, but he doesn't need to. Finally, he uses it on that barricade there, and he picks up another item for himself, getting cycled out. Now it's Wave in the front.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we got to mention that Spear is holding on to the EMP, so actually both teams, Wave actually has 2 EMPs. I got to imagine one of them will be cycled out. But at the end of the day, KWANGDONGFREECS, if they can keep this lead, they should be fairly safe. Cool. Okay, he didn't have a shield, so he's just going to have to cycle through that Banana. But Seongnam, EMP and shield available, has to use that shield. Can use the EMP to escape the UFO, but now he has no defenses available.
He has no defenses, but did he dodge enough? Summer is trying to come up to his flank.
Ooh, the Wisp is going to slow him down, and Banana now trying to keep the lead. The shield isn't enough. It blocks the attacks, and he will be able to finish. Actually, Taman coming in right on the side as well.
Potential with another strong showing here in item mode, going right now with the lead 1-0 against the team like KWANGDONGFREECS. What is happening, Will?
I mean, I gotta say, I think the changes to the item mode, and we're really seeing the effects of it, right? I think you have to be much quicker on your feet in the current meta. You really gotta be much more diligent about what you want to cycle through as you enter into that 3rd lap. Yes, at the end of the day, because it's only that 1st place finish that counts in item mode, the 3rd lap is still going to be the ever-important lap. However, the positioning for it is now much trickier, right? You can't just save up magnets and boosts and say, okay, call it a day, wait for lap 3. I mean, you really have to cycle through. Keep in mind how many more item boxes are left, what's the distance in between them, how else do we make sure we keep up in distance?
This is the season maybe where we have to start wondering, do teams get punished for not having an item ace? Because as you said, Will, it's not as easy anymore to be synergized as a team. You know, you have to be more versatile, ready for different kinds of attacks like the water bombs or the wisps, and those were the exact items that had such a huge impact in that round 1.
Yeah, well, we will be going to round 2, see if KWANGDONGFREECS can bring things back as we go to Village Town Hall. And we are off on Village Town Hall. Of course, we saw the debut of this track in match number 1 as well. One of the newer tracks that was kind of renewed here for Kart Rider Drift.
Yep, and now we're seeing a 3-lapper track, so this is going to be a rather slow-paced one where teams are able to cycle out through their items for a while.
Yeah, just tons of attacks being thrown out already. Again,
look at that list.
Yeah, you love to see it. I mean, now that we can see the log as well, great updates here coming in for item mode in Kart Rider Drift. World, does have a pretty hefty lead, and he has an EMP and a shield, so quite frankly, I mean, no real need for him to cycle through it. Looks like he used the shield, and he instantly cycles out for another one as well. Has to use another to get through some of these, attacks coming out from behind.
Ooh, World finally gets caught out there by the Water Wisp, but he's going to be able to use the EMP wave to get out of that one. And World, he's trying to get a really nice lead for himself, but Summer is constantly there to make sure he's checked.
Yeah, the water bomb being used just to cycle out. He gets 2 items, and he gets a missile and a wisp. Now, he is going to use one of them, and a missile from his teammates comes out, is going to keep World at bay. Now Summer trying to keep up the lead. He does have an EMP, but meanwhile he gets hit. And one thing we should note is because of the changes to the balloons, where you can now get out of those water bombs and wisps quicker, a lot of players we're still seeing are not quite used to the instant boost timing right afterwards.
Yeah, it's definitely a new mechanic to get used to, especially when the patch was so recent, the players showing that they haven't had enough practice around those features yet. But World and Spear are holding up pretty strong for the Freaks. We're already here in lap number 3. EMP Wave and Magnet on the side of World.
Yeah, and just one Angel Shield on either side of the team, so it's really about those attacks coming in. Wisp and Missile available for Wave should anyone pass him by, but right now it looks like he should be safe for the time being. He does cycle out for another shield. Can he keep that up? He does still able to save it. No attacks coming in just yet as we start to enter the last sections of the race.
We're seeing World, he's holding on to a Magnet there. He might want to use that on Wave because he's holding up that lead so far. World starting to come out with his items, and there's Temin spinning out of control, but it's World who's trying to speed across, and it's Cool bringing that victory home for the Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, and this is a bit of a just kind of flashback, I guess, to the meta from Preseason 1, where sometimes you have that person with a Magnet, they're just there to draw that aggro, right? He draws out so many of the attacks as he tries to get the lead. Meanwhile, that allows his teammates to just slide right on by on the other side of the track to cross that finish line first for Kwangdong Freaks.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, something about that track did feel like we were at a pretty slow pace the whole time. But in the end, Guangdong Freaks, they were able to utilize a lot of their items in such a cohesive manner that they were able to come in 1-2-3 as a whole team, and now putting a score up on the board against Potential, tying it up 1-1.
Okay, well, I mean, again, we mentioned that Kwangdong Freaks, while it wasn't always their strongest point, they were also not the weakest team in item mode in Preseason 1. We'll see if they can continue to prove that they won the entire first preseason for a reason, or can Banana lead Potential to a victory?
Well, we're about to find out in track number 3. It is chosen by Potential, so hopefully they're able to pick up a point here in Desert Sphinx's Riddle. Off we go in item round 3. We are looking at, once again, a 3-lapper track, and the shields, they're there for the players in the top half. Water bombs are going to get thrown out. I feel like I haven't seen very much effective water bomb usage today, Will.
Yeah, not too many. I mean, we had a couple tracks where we could potentially see it, but not too many good hits just yet. If we can go to that clock tower crossing later on again, that should be one where we have some really good chances to see the water bombs show off their strength here in the new meta.
We've surely seen a lot of water wisps and missiles though, because the players keep spinning non-stop. We haven't really seen that in Preseason 1 because the banana was the only item that can cause this effect right here on Spear, and banana is an item that we could say is relatively more easy to dodge than the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw one great banana earlier on in match number 1 where you can really try to drop it right as someone tries to pass you, but other than that, haven't seen too many impactful hits. World just, he cannot even race right now. He is just getting chain stunned by all of these attacking items.
Oh, and now a nice usage of Water Bomb. We're going to get to see that connect onto Seongnam. Summer and Temin and Wave having a really sizable lead right now for Potential.
Yeah, I mean, still, you know, enough of a gap where Kwangdong Freaks should be able to catch up in lap number 3. However, Taemin and Summer, the scariest thing is Summer is still there to try to take first place or take some of the aggro, right? He's taking a lot of these hits as he go around the corner. Summer is so far ahead, he cannot be targeted unless it's that UFO right now. They have to try to get him on some of these straightaways, and Summer actually just gets slowed down, chained, and then even the UFO as well to really secure the lead here for Cool.
Yeah, Cool is completely trying to get off the map. However, he got slowed down by the barricade. Now it's World leading the pack despite getting hit there by a missile. Banana, he's up in first place somehow earlier. I saw him at 5th.
Yeah, and to double EMP as well. Meanwhile, you've got Summer with a boost and Magnet, so they do have a chance to try to catch up. Banana's just keeping up these EMPs to make sure they cannot get Magnet themselves. However, Cool's holding on to his own potential. They have to be aware of the fact that there's a chance that this comes through.
Seongnam about to get targeted by a water wisp, but it was expertly blocked out, and Seongnam having such a sizable lead right now. World right behind him. A missile's going to go out onto Seongnam, but it gets blocked out. Temin trying to catch up, but he spins out of control.
Yeah, they had to cycle through a lot of those items earlier on just to try to get another chance as they gave up too much of a lead. But KWANGDONGFREECS, they still had all the defenses they needed for Seongnam to enter the cross line safely and take another win here in item mode.
Feels like round 2 and 3 were pretty stable wins for KWANGDONGFREECS so far, because in that last 500 meters where we really start to pay attention, it feels like they always find a way to have at least 3 of their members contesting in that top 5, and it makes it really easy where even if a member gets targeted by all of the offensive items, there's another player there to pick right back up where they were.
Yeah, absolutely. I think KWANGDONGFREECS just looks like they are able to really cover all corners, right, and make sure that they are safe from any of the possible attacks coming out from their opponents on some of these, I would say, relatively simpler tracks here, even within item mode. We'll see if that continues to carry on as we head into the next one, which is going to be a choice from KWANGDONGFREECS themselves. It's Factory Brody's Gloom.
Yeah, they want to close the match out here and not go to an ace match, although KWANGDONGFREECS is a team not scared of ace match either, because all 4 players on that roster are so capable at it. As we take a look at the replay, this is when Potential had it looking good with 1-2 from Tim and Summer.
Yeah, of course, Wave had a bit of a struggle there, and meanwhile in this third lap towards the end, we're seeing it. Oh, a great water bomb that we missed here in the middle of the pack that really keeps a lot of the members from Potential at bay, and Banana wasn't able to really help support his teammates from the back.
Yeah, what's beautiful about item mode is that most of the time the camera is focused on the top portion of the race, but in the back there's a lot of action happening as well to make sure that the support cannot catch up to the leaders.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Potential, can they make a run back here in item mode? They already took it to round 5 in speed mode. They want to do the same here for item. Try to get to that ace match as we enter Factory Brody's Gloom. And we are off as KWANGDONGFREECS tries to close things out in item mode, make sure they get that clean win with both speed and item mode under their belt.
This is going to be a 2-lapper track to switch up the pace a bit, and of course, Brody's Gloom is a track where the map in itself throws obstacles at your face, so you have a lot of things to watch out for. If you spin out of control into an obstacle, that could be a double kill.
Yeah, and especially just the way with the items work now, with the chances that you have of getting these attacking items. I mean, we've seen it, right? A lot of these chain attacks coming up already in some of these races. Banana just trying to keep someone else at bay as he makes sure he doesn't get stopped by some of those obstacles that you mentioned, Peter.
Yeah, right now we're seeing a lot of the Angels being utilized to try to deviate some of these items, the offensive ones, from hitting. Summer right now using a shield himself to make sure he doesn't get slowed down. Wave, he's all the way up in the front right now, Tim, and he's going to try to absorb the aggro from Cool to let Wave get even further across.
Yeah, Wave does have that shield that you're constantly getting a lot more of if you're in that first place with some of those kind of percentage chances. However, no EMP in sight, but everyone has reset on items as we go into round 2. KWANGDONGFREECS, they got to start to find an answer to try to catch up.
Yeah, Spear, he was trying to be that answer, but he got chain attacked, and now World, he does get blocked out. Wave, still having a really sizable lead, picks up a banana, not the ideal item in this spot. The water bomb is going to finally stop him.
Yeah, a huge water bomb there. Now Wave will still be able to block out that Wisp, but still gets spun out by the missile. Summer picks up a shield for himself. However, we see World with a water balloon, water bomb, and a magnet as well. If he can get into range, there is a decent chance that they will be able to try to really pass by in the last seconds.
Spear does have a magnet to try to connect onto Summer. Summer was able to shield out the attack. Spear, he does get set behind quite a bit. Now Sungbin, he needs to somehow try to catch up. He throws a water bomb, but it goes wide.
Yeah, but Cool still has another boost in the bank as well, and he's already positioned Spear for the lead with the magnet. He takes the
Summer?
UFO. He bumps Summer out, but Summer, can he keep the lead? He blocks off all the attacks from the opponents with the shields and the UFOs of his teammates, and he will be able to take us to a round 5 in item mode.
Summer with the clutch turnaround there. You saw Spear, he instantly, when he saw Summer approaching, he went for the sharp diagonal to try to stop Summer in his tracks, but it did not work, and after that, it was easy for Summer to pick back up, and now we are going to round number 5.
Yeah, I mean, an incredible attempt from both teams, but Summer just poised well enough to keep that lead, despite even getting UFO towards the end there. And oh boy, we are going to Clock Tower Crossing here in item mode.
This is the track that we mentioned earlier in the beginning that we want to see, Will, because this track does have some differences compared to your typical Kart Rider Drift item mode tracks. And honestly, what a great way to finish off this round 5 here. That could decide whether GWANGDONGFREECS gets a clean 2-0 sweep or potential has a chance to go to the ace match.
Yeah, I'm very curious. There's a good chance now. However, GWANGDONGFREECS just generally so good at racing that maybe this track does favor them just a bit. And one of the biggest reasons that, you know, if you keep the lead, it's much safer here on this track than other ones for item mode is because of how that ending is placed, right? You can really kind of swing out from that shortcut to just instantly enter the finish line. There isn't much room to go from the shortcut and maybe use a magnet or a boost to try to get by. You would have to try to cut in really close on that corner. Otherwise, you're literally 5 feet away from the finish line.
Yeah, we're seeing World on the camera right now. I feel like World hasn't really been showing up today as a spotlighted player on GWANGDONGFREECS. It's more been about Cool trying to stay in that front, and let's see if GWANGDONGFREECS can continue that on here, or will potential get a chance to go to the ace match in Village Clock Tower Crossing. Off we go into the set point that decides it all. Who will be the victor? We're looking at World and Spear currently in the lead. 3-lap track is going to be Clock Tower Crossing.
Yeah, and this is one of those tracks. Again, we're seeing it right from the start. Water balloons are pretty darn kind of effective, right? Even part of the track itself is fairly narrow. Not much room to dodge around, but especially as you get towards jump here and then maybe even into the shortcut. I mean, barricades and the like are really going to have a good effect.
And it's kind of funny that each time you cross by the sheeps, they actually meh at you. I like the detail on this track.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's just
a narrow shortcut.
Yeah, EMP. Yeah, even the barricade, right? You kind of have to just power through it. And then it's the crossing line, you know, finishing line right afterwards. So again, it's pretty hard to rely on something like the magnet to really get through and try to overtake on that last section. And guess what? World well in the lead already.
Crazy part in the lead, and Spear is doing all he can to try to knock out Banana, but he did get caught by the Water Wisp there. Now let's see if Banana can connect that Water Wisp onto World.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to get slowed down. The reason that that's so big is he had another missile in store to maybe even take out an extra shield from World, but he gets slowed down. He cannot get the targeting onto World just yet. World's still cycling through all his items to keep safe, and Taemin will be able to land through the fountain, try to gain some ground. However, World still well ahead. He's already crossed the finish line here, going into lap 3.
But thankfully, Wave does have a magnet, and he's within the range of World to use it when he needs to. But an EMP wave came out just in time for World. Wave manages to find a way to get across. Now a UFO going to slow him down and change the standings again.
Yeah, Wave some good instant boosts to try to make sure he can contest against World, and he's in decent position. He's trying to rely on this magnet. However, you got to remember that you got to kind of place it right before that shortcut, or if you're going into the shortcut, make sure you're in a position where you overtake on the inside. Water Bomb locks up a lot of members of KWANGDONGFREECS, and potential suddenly well in the lead. EMP's used, Angel used as well against the Lightning.
All the boosts are coming out right now for potential, looking really good with Banana in the lead. All Summer and Wave needs to do is block them out.
Yeah, they're literally just stopping in their tracks to block them out. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be going to an ace match on our opening day of Preseason 2 as Potential wins the item mode.
My goodness, you can see the relief on Banana right now that he was able to bring his team to that much needed ace match. Imagine on your debut day taking a win off of the defending champions of KDL.
Yeah, I mean, KWANGDONGFREECS, they take that first win in Preseason 1, and yet it's going to be Potential who pushes them to an ace match. And this is so emotional for Banana just because while people have kind of had their eyes on him because of his showmanship and his aggression in item mode, even in Preseason 1, he wasn't able to quite prove himself in that team setting alongside his teammates of Finale Esports. Now he's able to get that actual final win for himself in round 5, and now it goes to an ace match.
You know, I feel like GWANGDONGFREECS is always revered as a team due to the fact that every single member on their team is really capable in ace match, especially World. We've seen a 4-0 flawless record from him in Preseason 1. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him represent his team here again today. But on the other hand, you have to wonder who is going to be the player for potential, because a lot of pressure will be riding on their shoulders, and most likely it could be one of their first ever ace match showings too.
Yeah, absolutely. Very curious. Guangdong Freaks again. You have all the options in the world. It's probably more dependent on which track it is going to be on, and also maybe the condition of each player. But as you mentioned, kind of the most trustworthy in terms of ace matches, you're looking at World, but then, you know, winning the solo matches of Preseason 1, it was cool. Seongnam and Spear, no pushovers themselves either.
I don't think, obviously, we're going to get to see Banana as the ace match
Wow, that would be sick, though. I'd be all for that. Suddenly you're just like, you know what? We're so alpha, we send our item ace out for the ace match 1v1. That'd be sick.
That would definitely be, but I'm kind of suspecting that maybe we will see Summer as the representative, just because he chooses to build 5270.
Could be.
And I feel like usually the runners of the teams are the ones choosing this build. And really, our teams are taking their time right now to be careful with selecting their representative, because this is a lot of just results riding on that one single match.
Yeah, meanwhile, we did see Cool put on his earphones and headset, so see, but it looks like World also has his prepared as well. Oh, maybe that was a bit of a fake out. It looks like it's going to be World on the side of Guangdong Freaks, a bit of a teaser there, but we are going to Village Boom Hill Tunnel. I'm in a straight one-lapper from start to finish. This is a race for that first win of Preseason 2 here in KDL.
And what better track can we get than a one-lapper? It goes by really fast, but it also, I feel like, has less forgiveness for mistakes. So it's all about being consistent here. World definitely a player that has shown that consistency is his middle name. On the side of potential, Summer does come out as I suspected.
Okay, well, Summer versus World. Now, Summer has played in solo matches in the original Kart Rider League, but this is his first time coming out to KDL. See if he can prove himself. I mean, what a chance he's gotten, right? I just hope that he doesn't let the pressure get to him. He just plays his own race, right? It's no shame if you lose to a player like World, if you lose to Guangdong Freaks, but this is a great chance to prove what you're capable of.
And looking at Summer right now, I'm trying to get in his shoes and try to figure out how he's feeling. And you can tell he's really focused. He just wants to get into the match already. You can see him breathing in and out, trying to slow himself down, make sure the nerve is not getting to him. While on the other side, World is looking super calm and collected.
Yeah, I mean, World, he's got the face of a champion. He's been here, done that. He's won those ace matches for his team before. Can he do it again as we go to Village Boom Hill Tunnel? And the race begins. One lap, one track for ace match here between Guangdong Freaks and potential World. Can he bring home that first win for Guangdong Freaks as they try to get another hot start, or will Summer make that upset happen for potential?
So far, Summer has a really nice lead, and he's been keeping it up, but World hugging that wall there, getting the tightest line, and he's able to come in front of Summer now and building a nice lead.
Yeah, Summer, he tried to get a little bit too aggressive, and he's lost a lot of his boost gauge, and he's just now trying to catch back up, but look at the boost gauges on the side. You see that Summer just has to slice through a lot of these turns, has to go for some of those zone drifts to make sure that he can keep up, and now he's got another chance.
World has some fantastic blocks right now. He's been making sure to stay within the line that's advantageous for him, while also blocking out Summer.
Oh, he worked off of the draft, and he thought as soon as the draft kicked in, he had a good chance to overtake, but World blocks him just enough. Summer's going to have to try to take the railing.
Going for the build.
Yep, he does make it happen, and he's going to catch up just enough. This should give him just enough of a chance. You see, he's barely in draft range. He has another shot! Oh, no, he lets it fly by once again. I don't know if there's going to be another chance here. He uses the boost off the jump to try to catch up, but it's going to be a little bit too late. Not in draft range just yet. I mean, you can tell the pressure getting to him as he's just trying to give himself another chance, but it's going to be World yet again with another ace match win.
I feel like the mindset between these two players was represented in the gameplay as well. World was just more focused on his own thing and not making mistakes, whereas Summer, he was trying to really react to the line of world, try to block him whenever he comes, and also try to catch up by taking the greedier lines, but that didn't pay off because that did lead to more mistakes. And Summer, once he lost that momentum by hitting the wall, it kind of seemed like he was tumbling over more and more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ever since that first bump, quite frankly, that was a real big one, almost sealed the deal. He even tries to catch up. He is able to get in range for a second draft, but I think as soon as he saw that, you could tell he was like, okay, I'm close enough. If I just close the gap a bit more, get into the shortcut, get that draft on the last couple corners, I can overtake him. And as soon as he thinks that, he hits that extra corner on those 90-degree turns, and he's just not able to make it happen. But again, this is where you start to see that experience matters, right? The veterancy coming in handy for World.
Yeah, in set number 1 of Speed, Guangdong Freaks did take a win, but it was really hard. It went all the way to that match number 5. Same story in item mode, but it was Potential who took that win and bought them a chance for the ace match, where World continues his winning streak from previous preseason 1.
Yeah, I mean, if we count that, right, he's continuing on now, actually putting up a similar record to Jung. He's won 5 ace matches in a row in his career in KDL so far. See if that will continue on further in preseason 2.
I must say, Guangdong Freaks, despite having a shaky start to their season by going all the way to the ace match against a rookie team like Potential, their ace match game still looks really strong. And I feel like the biggest hype would be seeing World and Jung face off against each other in an ace match, because one player has to come out with the loss.
That would be so sick. That would be sick. I mean, we talked about that potential in preseason 1. We didn't get to quite see it happen, but we'll see if we get that extra chance here in preseason 2, as ROX, of course, looked a lot stronger across the board here in preseason 2 in our opening match.
And we must give so much credits to Potential, Will. I think a lot of people would have expected match number 2 being a win for Guangdong Freaks, but no one would have thought that Potential would have put up this much fight and pushed the defending champions all the way to the wall. You know, there's a good reason why this roster was redeemed as the roster with the most amount of players that we're accustomed to, and we know they're really good pro players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, I mean, Banana proving that now with the new meta, a little bit more aggression favored here in item matches. He's proving that he is that item ace for this squad. Maybe they can continue to put that pressure and get a couple wins here in the round robin. I mean, maybe even make the playoffs right here in preseason 2.
That is definitely what you're looking to do. And on the other hand, because you're telling me about making it to the playoffs, I can't help but remember match 1 today, where also ShowTime had a pretty good performance against ROX Esports, and ROX was kind of called out to be the weakest pro team.
Yes.
And that has to be what Potential is looking at. You know, they need to start with teams like ROX, who are comparatively weaker than Guangdong Freaks statistically, and hopefully they're able to close out a win there, because those wins are what creates the staircase in order for you to climb to the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we kind of just take a look at it in obvious sense, sure, you've got the likes of Guangdong Freaks, Live Sandbox, and then ROX as the third pro team here in KDL. But then that, you know, 4th spot is kind of up for grabs, right? So curious to see how things shake up. Of course, if you missed it, the format is we go through a full round robin here in regular season play, and then we move on into the playoffs, which is a bracket. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're not quite done yet. We played the team matches, and we are getting ready for our very first group, Group A, of the solo matches here in preseason 2 of the KDL. We'll be bringing you the solo matches right after this break. Welcome back, everyone. We are ready to bring you the beginning of solo matches here for Preseason 2 of KDL. My name is William Cho, of course, joined by Peter. We're bringing you the opening day, and I'm pretty excited here for solo matches.
Solo matches are a great way to change the flavor of what's on your dinner plate. We've had the team matches, and now, of course, because it's the first time we're doing this in Preseason 2, we have to go over the overview.
Yeah, of course, it starts with a round of 32, and just for the sake of efficiency, in the round of 32, it's a little brutal, but the bottom 4 of each group will be eliminated. Only the top 4 survive, but once you move on into the round of 16, it kind of works similar to a double elimination bracket. If you're top 4, you get to the winner's match, which can instantly seed you into the final 8. But if not, you will be dropping down to the lower bracket, so to speak. And we have, a couple different tracks here for solo matches. It's not identical to speed mode and team. And notably, WKC Korea Circuit enters here for solo matches.
Korea Circuit is only available in the solo match, so it would be really exciting to get to see that. But it's the players who are choosing, so I don't really expect to see it too much because a player would have had to practice the Korea Circuit track more so than the other ones that they feel so confident in.
Yeah, we'll have to see how things change up here. Of course, the winner of each track then gets the advantage of selecting the next track that they want to race on. And we take a look at the overall round of 32. I mean, notably Group A, you've got 3 members that were in the final 8 of Preseason 1, including the winner in Cool, the runner-up in NEAL, and the World alongside them. But every group, I mean, there's some good reasons to watch. And I hate to keep bringing the focus there, but we're finally getting to see Jung in solo matches from ROX Esports, and you'll have to wait until the 25th to watch him in Group B.
We can tell you're a big fan of Jung. The story has been there for him, and he has been delivering every single time, so it's no surprise there. And he's all the way in the furthest group, so people will have to watch, but we do have some really delightful players like NEAL who are performing today. You have to wonder what builds has he prepared for new tracks like the Korean Circuit. Yeah,
of course. And then in Group B, Ho-Jun, of course, kind of the legend, the king of Kart Rider. He does get to go up against one of his disciples that he coached back in the original Kart Rider and Hero, so there's some good storylines there as well. So overall, every group should be quite exciting, but we are bringing you the first 8 of the round of 32 today. It's Group A.
Yeah, we're going to start off with player Vanilla all the way on the left, and I feel like Vanilla hasn't really made a huge name for himself in Preseason 1, so hopefully here in Preseason 2 he's able to deliver.
Yeah, and of course, talking about the colors that their stripes will represent, it is going to be yellow, oftentimes representing the first seed of each group. So Vanilla just saying, you know what, I will do yellow justice here, represent that yellow uniform, the yellow characters, the yellow stripes here for the solo match races.
And Vanilla isn't on any team this season, so he really wants to perform here as we see another player, Hong, a new face that we haven't seen last season. He's saying Acid Fly, Suit and Lens, you did a great job because he's close friends with them. There's a lot of connections and community in Kart Rider.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Hong's one of those players that finished his military service and he's now returning to continue his career here in Kart Rider Drift League. See if he can be able to keep that up. I mean, we saw Kosu do that in Preseason 1. He had a pretty decent showing.
But NEAL, we know this guy. He's the guy we always look at for the NEAL builds with his puppy. There's a nice story behind that as well, why he brings it to his matches. And he's saying, nice to see you all again, and it's nice to see you too, NEAL.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, NEAL, he's just such a good-hearted guy on stage, but he also has some sick genius builds, great racing, obviously technique. So see what he shows us here in solo matches. Meanwhile, on the other side, we got UMaRu, and just a little shout out to everyone that's supporting him. You love to see it, and it's his first time here in KDL, so see what he can do.
And he's shouting out his family, mom, dad, Hyung, and all the cute members. I love you all.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty emotional moment for him because he's always tried for the prelims, even in Kart Rider League. He never made it to the stage, and now it's his first time now in Preseason 2 of KDL, so I'm sure he just wants to try to extend the time that he gets to spend on stage.
It makes you want to cheer for this guy and hope that he at least moves up to the best of 16. But of course, our next player here is Cool, the man himself. He is the winner of Season 1's solo match, and he's looking to continue that championship.
It's funny that he says it's spelled cool and reads as cool, like literally phonetically, that's how it would say it in a dictionary. But yeah, basically he's changed the name to actually say cool. It used to say ZZZ, and the sound you make for snoring in Korea is cool, so that's why it was cool. But anyway, now it's uniform. We all know what his name is.
we no longer need to guess what the real name of the players are, as we see VEGA saying, I didn't expect to see you here. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, I mean, VEGA, right? He wasn't here in solos for the preseason 1, so it's his first time here in preseason 2. Also, notably, he is currently on the bench for ROX Esports, but he still has a chance to prove himself, has a chance to shine in solo matches. I'm sure he's just as desperate as anybody to try to continue on here in solos.
As we get to see a fan for Duzzi saying, Duzzi can do it. The man shows up himself saying, best and summer, I will do my best for you guys. We love the sense of friendship between the pro players.
Yeah, I mean, again, a pretty tight-knit community within the kart rider kind of universe here in Korea. Of course, we continue to see some new faces show up and try to challenge, but, you know, you're all going through similar training regimens and things like that. And then another member here, you know, who was part of the Final 8 in preseason 1, NEAL, Cool, and World. He's trying to make sure everyone, you know, remembers that he was still part of that Final 8.
Yeah, he's definitely not afraid to show everyone that he is a player, as it's able to measure up against the caliber of players like NEAL, who've had such a great success so far, as well as Cool, who recently won that title. And it's no surprise because World has been doing so good ever since we came over to Kart Rider Drift.
All right, well, we will be kicking things off on track number 1. Looks like we'll be going with a tough one to start with. It's going to be Desert Construction Chaos in Group A of solo matches. All right, we kick things off in solo matches here. Group A of the round of 32 for preseason 2.
And now we're seeing NEAL leading the pack right now, and we know NEAL, when he's in the lead, sometimes he just never lets it go. So Cool is trying to keep him checked, but those two are kind of off in their own world.
Yeah, I mean, again, they were the first and second place of preseason 1, so no big surprise. We'll have to keep an eye. The real question for me is, I don't think it's going to be surprising if Cool, NEAL, and World, you know, move on. They should be moving on to the top 4. Right. But who takes that 4th spot to stay alive into the round of 16?
Well, we can definitely look at players like Vanilla and Duzzi for being names we recognize from preseason 1, but Hong and UMaRu, these players, they have the limitless potential that we don't know what they can show in Kart Rider Drift yet. And we're seeing VEGA actually up in that top 4, gonna drop down, however.
Oh yeah, tried to just cut ahead as everyone slows down and then block them to try to get through those 90 degrees. He actually ends up having to make way and bump into the corners a bit and is going to fall behind all the way down to 5th place. Meanwhile, NEAL and Cool, they're still staying way up front.
And it's Vanilla right now trying to get that 4th place position to be making sure that he's going to be the one to move forward. VEGA, he's the only one close enough to really contest Vanilla right now. But as you can see in the minimap, 1, 2, 3 is not going to get contested anytime soon by the other players.
Yep, they are all just in their own competition right now. And really, between these guys, it's really about how fast can we finish this race. Who's going to reach that 50 points first to just close out the round of 32. VEGA does make it back up to the top 4. And if he can continue to do that, he will be moving on to the round of 16 as we go through all these tracks today.
VEGA has been pretty consistently up here, but last time he was weaving through these obstacles, the tricky paths, he did get set behind. Hopefully he's looking to not allow that to happen this time because Vanilla is looking to catch up.
Yeah, meanwhile, World and Cool, a little bit of friendly rivalry, and NEAL just trying to stay in 3rd place at the very least. Cool, he wants to get 1st place. He wants to prove that he was the winner of preseason 1. World not letting any room show up. He does block Cool at the end as well, and World will be getting the first 10 points and the first chance to choose the next track.
Near the end there, it got so close between NEAL and VEGA. NEAL was actually losing his spot in 3rd place, but he was able to close it off in the end, securing that. So on the bottom, we're seeing VEGA and Vanilla, pretty much the only guys that really contested 4 and 5. So I wonder if these two players are going to be the ones that we keep our eyes on.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, World, again, he's continuing to show pretty strong showing so far, but can he keep that up through and through? We'll watch as he selects his next track.
I feel like Cool and NEAL are definitely on top of their form today, and World as well, of course. Especially Cool because even in the team matches, he was not letting go of the leads at all. He was making sure he's always the runner, staying in the front. So I'm expecting Cool to not really falter today. It's really just a matter of who's going to reach 50 the fastest.
Yeah, and we got to remember, right? Until the final 8, all that matters is you're in the top 4, right? That you're moving on to the next rounds, that you're getting to the final 8. So quite frankly, sure, NEAL, he didn't get first place in the first track, but he also knows that, okay, if I can always finish second or third, right, just rack up those points enough to make the cutoff when someone reaches 50, it's okay. So NEAL's not going to be too pressured that he didn't get first in one of the tracks. He should be feeling just fine. As we go into the choice from World, it is World Tour Rio de Janeiro.
Off we go into round 2, choice of track by World himself. As we see the players being boosted off in their paragliders, we're seeing Vanilla up in the front with UMaRu. Let's see if they can keep that lead.
Yeah, one interesting thing about UMaRu, this is one of those tracks where he will use the flower carriage cart and switches back over to the old 6062 build. A lot of these players, depending on which cart they're using on which track, they will go back to 6062 and then maybe revert back to 5072. So see if UMaRu can try to redeem himself after that last place finish in the first track.
He sure did with that jump off. He was able to propel from 7th place all the way to 3rd. Now Duzzi and Hall trying to come up and contest. It's really cool in World right now, having that sizable gap in 1-2.
Yeah, they're just trying to, again, have their own little rivalry going on. But UMaRu keeping up in 3rd place, even pushing into 2nd. He's weaving in back and forth.
Yeah, UMaRu, he wants to try to apply some pressure to Cool, but Cool is still one step ahead of everyone else, and Cool is looking uncontestable at the moment. Duzzi now catching up, and he's going to be the new opponent for UMaRu to deal with.
Oh, UMaRu plays it safe. He was in danger of potentially getting collided a bit too much on those jumps down on the rooftops, so he will just make sure that he can try to stay in the lead, but he doesn't. He actually gets pushed all the way back. He lost so much speed, and meanwhile, it's Cool who finishes in 1st place. UMaRu got pushed all the way back down to 8th.
Yeah, I mean, the rankings were definitely crazy this time around, especially we want to point out World. He won last track and picked this one himself, but he ended in 6th place. So now with Cool picking up 10 points, you know, it's getting dicey, that 1st place spot, who's going to finalize it?
Yeah, I mean, UMaRu, I like that he played it safe as they were jumping down on those canopies, but quite frankly, lost too much speed. Everyone else was able to keep up their boosts as they land back on the track. Maybe a bigger mishap happened as well, but at the end of the day, a bit of a rough one here for UMaRu. He's now down to -2. Meanwhile, Cool will be shooting forward with 17 points.
Duzzi is tied at 3rd place with NEAL at 10 points, which is about 5 points ahead of Vanilla, who is at 5th place. So we are now looking at Duzzi being the guy that Vanilla, VEGA, Hung, and UMaRu needs to try to catch up to. And realistically right now, it's looking the toughest for UMaRu to be catching up.
Yeah, I mean, UMaRu, you know, see what he can do, see if he can try to bring things back, at least try to contend for 4th place, but trying to break into the top 3 looks pretty tough. I mean, sure, solo matches, anything can happen just because it is about whoever gets to 50 points first.
Yeah, but now we are ready for the track chosen by Cool himself. It is going to be in Village Boom Hill Tunnel. Let's see if he can rack up another win for himself here.
And we are off. Cool. Trying to finish off the solo matches as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, NEAL and Duzzi and World all sitting comfortably with enough points to try to stay in the top 4.
Right now, UMaRu, he's definitely trying to redeem himself being in that 1st place, but NEAL is right on his heels. World coming up as well, and VEGA, he really needs the points. He's in about 6th place right now, 6 points away from 4th.
Yeah, and you can see that UMaRu, his racing on his own is not bad at all, but the thing is, as soon as he starts to get pressured, a lot of his drifts start to maybe drift out a little bit too much. He slides a little bit too far, much wider than he wants, loses a bit extra speed. So we'll see. I mean, if he can keep this up all through this lap here on Boom Hill Tunnel.
Right now, Cool once again in the lead. We know Cool is a scary guy because once he gets the momentum, he doesn't really let go, and we saw the 3rd place player just hitting the walls back and forth, losing a lot of momentum. The gap is widening between 3rd place and 2nd.
Yeah, and NEAL, he got bumped a little bit, but he's still able to land on the railing with his build there, so just trying to keep up in third place. Hong trying to make a run into the top 3, and he actually forces NEAL to have to slow down enough on those 90 degrees. Hong now safely in third place.
Yeah, Hong is coming in really strong right now, trying to shake up the rankings, pushing Cool out of the way, but it's Cool who's still in the lead, and it seems like Cool, he's gonna pass World now as well, and come in first place yet again.
You know what the crazy part is Cool is trying to block Hong, and they both boost on those last 90 degrees, and what happens is Hong actually bumps into Cool as Cool starts his boost, so Cool's actually able to shoot forward on the inner side and just make a straightaway in between those 90 degrees, weave through, and pass by Worlds there towards the finish line.
What can we say? The gods are on Cool's side, we may as well say today so far, because he's already going to be able to rack himself up to a 27-point total, and now the question becomes, do the other players now need to start checking Cool as a group? Because look at the difference. World, he's 9 points ahead. If Cool gets another first place, he's going to be only 13 points away from finishing it off.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's all about that race, you know, for that top 4, right? So sure, Cool seems to be well ahead in the lead. World could try to catch up, but other than that, World and NEAL at 18 and 14 points, somewhat safe. However, you know, VEGA at 4, Duzzi at 9, you know, Hong at 8, Vanilla at 8. I mean, it's really anybody's spot here for that 4th spot.
Duzzi, we were talking about him having a nice lead over the rest of the players in maintaining that 4th place, but as you said, Will, now it's really close. Only 1 point separates Duzzi, Hong, Vanilla, so this next track here is already going to make such a huge difference. 2 things we're looking at is Cool going to get first place again, and who among Duzzi, Hong, Vanilla are going to get into the high rankings.
Yeah, I mean, meanwhile, UMaRu does make a bit of improvement, trying to climb back up from the negative scores. Again, I mean, this is his first time making it to the stage of any Kart Rider Universe tournament, so if he can just try to get some points on the board, it'd be a great story. He always has a great start. See if it happens again as we go into the next choice. It's Desert Ancient Aqueducts.
Off we go into the 3rd track now, picked by Cool himself. It's looking really bad for UMaRu. He's once again in the 8th place, so it seems like we're going to have to pay more attention to players like Vanilla and VEGA looking for the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, the thing is VEGA also one of the racers in this group who's constantly been in the forefront in the first half of each race, and then he starts to kind of fall behind because of the pressure. He tries to, you know, maybe aggress a bit too much, or maybe he's just trying to avoid collisions, loses too much speed on his drifts, and he starts to fall further and further behind. I mean, here currently he's only racked up 4 points total.
Yeah, right now it's World NEAL again in the front, but it's VEGA who's able to maintain his lead this time and not make a mistake, causing him to fall behind really far. Vanilla sitting at 5th place right now, keeping Cool behind, which is a new thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing, VEGA, he needs to start to understand that, yes, first place would be good, but right now I just need to continue to rack up points ahead of the other members who are contending for 4th place. He needs to just get into that range before the race finishes. UMaRu bumps the corner just a bit.
Yeah, UMaRu, he was looking really good, but that bump is definitely going to set him back, and now all the space is there for World, NEAL, and VEGA to be that 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, World with a great straightaway performance, but he gets pushed away. Meanwhile, VEGA and UMaRu, they're trying to make an upset happen here on Ancient Aqueducts.
UMaRu pushing VEGA into the wall to apply more pressure, but Vanilla makes use of that and comes in from the outer, trying to take the first, but now it's VEGA once again. These players are trading back and forth.
Yeah, but this is huge for VEGA and Vanilla. They are 2 of the players that were in contention for potential 4th place, and they are currently well ahead of the other rivals that are trying to get into that position.
It's a VEGA show right now. He's looking to stay in first place, but he does fall behind.
He tries to block a little bit too much. He gets knocked out. Meanwhile, NEAL has been playing it so safe, but look at this. He loses his position as the crowd catches up, and now they've all been pushed back. World somehow gets all the way through. UMaRu, meanwhile, gets a clean 2nd place.
And Duzzi with the 3rd place as well. I like that so far in Group A. We're not having a too one-sided performance so far. It was Cool kind of showing up with that one-sided momentum, but now he was stopped in his tracks, and I wonder how many more rounds we're going to have left after this.
Yeah, a bit of a big shakeup here on Ancient Aqueducts, right? I mean, we didn't have Cool going in to the first 3 at all. Doesn't get a podium finish, so Oh, this is going to be an interesting one. World racking up an extra 10 points, brings it up to 28. Ties with World, who finished so low, he only gets 1 extra point on that one.
Yeah, I mean, so far, there were only 4 players who were able to get first place because we've had 4 rounds, and 2 times it was Cool, 2 times it was World. These 2 players are looking to be the strongest in their groups today so far, but of course, we have players like Duzzi, who is sitting in 4th place right now at 14 points, which is 3 points away from Vanilla in 5th place. It's all about Duzzi versus Vanilla right now for that last ticket.
Yeah, I believe VEGA and Vanilla. Oh no, Vanilla actually staying ahead with those 11 points. So right now, VEGA continued not really able to rack up any further points for himself. Meanwhile, UMaRu, and Hong, they're still at 6 and 7 points. That 4th place, still anybody's if they just get that 1st place one of these times.
UMaRu, as you said, he looked like he was too far behind, but because of his stellar performance in round 4, he's definitely bought himself that opportunity. He needs to now rack up his game in consistency, and he may be able to take that 4th place from Duzzi. But first, let's go to track number 5, chosen by World, Glacier Extreme Stadium.
Cool and World tied at 28 points. We've still got a decent ways to go here in the very first group of solo matches in the round of 32.
VEGA being that player once again in the early lead, as you said, Will. And we're looking at Duzzi and UMaRu also catching up with them right now. The bottom 4 players of the total standings are definitely trying to stand up as we move on into the group.
Yeah, this is the unique thing about these solo matches, though, right? Is that you can have the best races, the best times in your own time attack mode, but at the end of the day, you are contesting against 7 other players that are also trying to take you out. If you break under that pressure, if you don't know how to defend yourself from the pressure and the forces coming out from your opponents, you're eventually going to lose that lead.
But so far, that pressure hasn't been applied too much because it's still UMaRu in the lead with VEGA and Duzzi. World, he has been keeping that 2nd place pretty consistently so far. Cool, the new contender for that top 4.
Yeah, Cool. He just wants to make sure he can get back in the lead ahead of World. And he's trying to catch up. Doesn't have to go for any of these extra slices there on the straightaway. Just boost forward to try to make sure he sticks right up against World. And he's doing a good job of it. Stays ahead in boost gauge as well.
Now we're finally seeing NEAL trying to be that contender as well for the top 4, but it's currently World who gets bumped out in all directions.
Yeah, a couple players actually bumping there, drifting out a little bit too far wide. I mean, that was World and NEAL making a crucial mistake, and Cool now able to just stay way ahead in 1st place. Duzzi, VEGA, and Vanilla, they all have a chance to gain a couple more points. NEAL somehow still recovers, is now contending back for a top 4.
Oh, VEGA, he took a nice little boost there. He hit the wall, but that didn't kill his momentum. Now it's all about VEGA versus NEAL for that 4th spot. Vanilla and Duzzi holding on to that 2nd and 3rd. Cool is off in his own world right now.
Yeah, Duzzi, a great turn there, trying to overtake Vanilla. He does so, and he's body blocking everyone on the jump. He's forcing them to have to make errors, but Vanilla will get an extra boost right as they land, and Vanilla will get that 2nd place.
My goodness, Vanilla, he was in 5th place behind Duzzi, but now with Vanilla coming in at 2nd place and Duzzi at 3rd place, you can tell that these 2 players are really keeping up their momentum, being that rival for that 4th place spot.
Wow, well, Cool shooting back forward with another 10 points. That should put him at 38. Fairly close. We've still got minimum 2 more tracks, but that could be it here for the solo matches. And we should note, World, after that crucial mistake, NEAL recovers, but World did not. He finishes at 7th place.
Yeah, right now the standings, we see it again. NEAL is actually now starting to be in a bit of a hot heel spot because Vanilla is only 3 points away from that 3rd place position. So NEAL has to step up his game or we might actually see him drop from the top 4.
We'll have to see. Little signs for all the different players, UMaRu and of course Cool earlier as well. I mean, you love to see the support. We'll see if they can do it. Vanilla, he wanted to do the yellow stripes proud, and he's doing his best right now. 18 points on the board, but it's not quite enough for top 4 just yet. He is 1 point shy as Duzzi still holds on to that cutoff line with 19.
It is starting to look like VEGA, UMaRu, and Hong don't really have much of a chance left anymore, especially if Cool continues on his lead. He's already had 3 first place finishes. Let's see if he can pick another one up in World Tour New York Rally. off we go into round number 6 of Group A.
And World just continuing to lead once again. Another one-lapper here, so it's really just going to be about, you know, whenever you get the chance, can you keep up in that boost gauge? Can you make sure you're timing your drafts perfectly as you try to overtake each other on some of these turns?
And right now, Cool once again maintaining a really nice lead. Somebody's got to stop this guy because he's at 38 points, and if he gets another 10 points, it becomes really impossible to buy yourself any more time. Now, World and Duzzi being in that 1-2.
Yeah, Hong with a nice stutter drift there just to try to keep up. While, you know, point-wise, it doesn't look like he has much hope to try to get into the top 4. It would be great to just put his name on the board. Cool bouncing around just a bit, but he is able to recover just enough. Now trying to just keep Hong and Duzzi at bay as well.
You have to keep in mind that Vanilla, who was a big contender for that spot with Duzzi, he's all the way back in 8th place right now, so it'll be a matter of question, can Vanilla recover when there's only a 1-lap track?
Yeah, you know, one thing we gotta mention is Duzzi is not a player we've mentioned too much, but oftentimes that means maybe they're doing just fine, right? I mean, they're always just getting enough points to stay into that cutoff line of the top 4, and he's trying to do the same here in New York Rally.
We do call that the pension meta, where they try to just stay within relevant points enough to stay top 4. Right now, he's doing that. He was able to win the body checks against World. Now, World does come in with the tighter line. Duzzi again trades back with the line, giving him that 4th place spot.
Oh, and Hong, he's doing whatever he can to try to stop Cool from getting an extra 10 points. Hong, he's trying to boost ahead, but Cool has one as well. He gets the draft as well. He will boost forward, and Hong gets his first place finish as he comes back from that military service.
That was huge for Hong because before in the standings, he was sitting all the way at 8th place overall with only 6 points. So picking up these 10 points is not going to put him in contention for top 4 yet, but for many of these players, especially a returning player like Hong, it's really important for them to get their face up on the board at least.
Yeah, I mean, an incredible run here from Hong to just, again, at least leave an impression, right? Regardless of how things might work out. It's going to be interesting to see how things continue to pan out. That shoots him up to 16 points. He escapes that last place instantly. Meanwhile, UMaRu and VEGA not able to really make any advancements on their own points.
And that was really devastating for Vanilla now because Duzzi, he's able to stay comfortably in that 4th place again. And now with Cool sitting at 1st place with 45 points, he's only 5 points away from ending off the solo match. And that means he just needs to finish 3rd place or higher.
Yeah, I mean, again, he just has to enter the podium, right? So we'll have to see. I mean, quite frankly, I find it hard that Cool wouldn't make a podium finish, right? We've seen that only 1 track out of the 6 so far, and he takes us to another rough one. It's going to be in the Mine theme. It's Mine Rickety Rails for round 7, selected by, it's going to be Hong's first choice. Cool is looking to finish off Group A of the round of 32. If he can just enter the podium, the solo matches will end for the night.
And so far, he's looking to lead, not just be in the podium. Hong once again being in that top spot as well. And we have to keep our eyes on him because he did get really close to that 4th place contention with Duzzi.
Yeah, we'll have to see if things swap out just a bit. Right now, Cool's still keeping the lead, but this is a 3-lapper, right? And if everyone's still staying close enough, things could change pretty easily. A couple extra chances, especially in that section I was about to say. Those bumps can happen when you're least expecting them, and UMaRu does lose a lot of his lead there.
Yeah, it's all about Operation Tackle Cool right now. Someone's got to sacrifice their lines to stop him because Cool is unstoppable with getting these first place. It's Vanilla right now trying to do that, but he's so busy and caught up in maintaining his own line that he can't even try to bump into Cool.
Yeah, right now it's looking like we might just finish with the top 4 that we already have, which would be including Duzzi, but see if he can keep it safe. Duzzi right now not actually gaining any points for himself, so he could be in danger of someone potentially catching up.
Cool, he's still maintaining 1st place all the way into the 3rd lap, and this is their last chance right now for World and Vanilla to try to make something happen. NEAL also coming up to the top 4 to try to get some lead.
Yeah, if it finishes this way, I think Vanilla might be able to enter the top 4. Duzzi's not going to gain any more points at 7th place, and it looks like he's not really making any headway. Okay, Vanilla shoots up to first place, but meanwhile, Duzzi, we see him in the bottom right screen. He's actually trying to make sure he keeps in the top 4 as well.
But Cool, this guy is unstoppable. He wants that first place finish just for the style points. As we see Vanilla, he is a step behind Cool, and it seems our standings will be finalized.
I think we might have a tie for 4th place.
Yeah.
I think it might be Vanilla and Duzzi tied for 4th. We'll have to wait for the calculations come through and confirm. But first of all, one thing's for sure. Cool wraps up the 50 points here to wrap up Group A in the round of 32, showing once again why he was the ultimate winner of the solo matches in Preseason 1.
We called it earlier, Will. Something about Cool, his form has been so good today. This guy, he is playing that runner position perfectly to the T. As we see the confirmation, Duzzi and Vanilla are tied for 4th. So we do need to have a tiebreaker.
Yeah, oh boy, okay, well, Cool. I mean, he's happy with his finish. I think it's no surprise, right? World and NEAL following right afterwards. Sure, NEAL wasn't in the spotlight the entire time, but again, solo matches, it's a marathon, right? You gotta get to that final 8. And if you can just do that, I mean, NEAL wasn't ever in any danger of potentially getting knocked out. But meanwhile, we have a nice little special surprise here because we have to have a tiebreaker between Vanilla and Duzzi.
I feel like this might be the first time, at least I've ever seen a solo match tiebreaker, so this is definitely really exciting to be able to witness firsthand. And you can see even Vanilla looking very happy and excited to jump into the match. I
mean, sure, it's, you know, you're happy on one side, but it's also like, man, like this is just unnecessary pressure that I didn't want to have to deal with today. I think that, you know, maybe applies a bit more for Duzzi, right? You know, currently he's still sitting on the roster of ROX Esports, and he's like, man, I gotta prove myself in the round of 32 just to get in the top 4. What a rough group.
Yeah, this definitely has been a rough group if your name isn't Cool, World, or NEAL. And honestly, I feel like Duzzi has been the player for me based on Preseason 1 records of a player that has shown more potential than Vanilla. But Vanilla also, he's had great performances in the qualifiers that led him up to the solo match Group A, so it can go either way.
Yeah, there's UMaRu on the screen. I mean, listen, you know, he had a rough start, but he made a couple good runs on a couple of those tracks, you know, in his first showing on the main stage. Meanwhile, we should mention Duzzi, you know, he's had some reliable performances both in team and solo. However, Vanilla, he finished with only 9 points in the round of 32 in Preseason 1. If he can make it out to round of 16 today, that would be a huge win for him.
Yeah, we're going to see who takes that huge win in Desert Construction Chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, we begin our first tiebreaker of the group solo match of Preseason 2 between Vanilla and Duzzi.
Oh, and Duzzi's just going to be able to keep the lead. It should be noted, Vanilla not running with the balloon on his cart right now, so not going to be able to really gain those extra advantages on the boost. He's just going to have to rely on his own drifts to really stay ahead of Duzzi.
Duzzi has way too big of a lead right now. Vanilla definitely needs to start focusing on how he can improve his line, start breeding to be able to catch up to Duzzi, because so far that gap isn't closing.
Yeah, now of course you are going to have a chance here, right? But the thing is this area also so prone to errors. And Vanilla,
no,
what
Vanilla!
A massive mistake, not one that you can easily recover for. I mean, it's not a simple matter of losing speed. You have lost your entire course, and he thought he could course correct himself, so he doesn't even reset instantly. I mean, I think Vanilla is pretty much out of the race.
And now for Duzzi, the best part is you know that all you have to do is keep your line good and not make a single mistake. There's no risk that Duzzi has to take at all, while Vanilla has to take so many risks. They are a complete 5 frames apart.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we don't even see, we have to catch Vanilla on that second screen, and, you know, he's doing whatever he can to try to catch up. And it looks like maybe he'll eventually enter the vision on the minimap, but even that looks like it's going to be a tough one. The pressure clearly forcing Vanilla to make some of these errors that normally he wouldn't be making on his own.
Yeah, Vanilla, at this point, even if he plays close to perfect, it may not be enough, so he needs to somehow find a way to go above perfect. Maybe hope that Duzzi makes a really big mistake. We saw a glimpse of Vanilla there on the screen, because this is where he can have a chance to catch up.
Yeah, Duzzi just gonna be able to play safe. He's quite aware that he hasn't seen Vanilla in quite some time on the map. So he's just gonna play it pretty safe.
That was the toughest part of the track, and Duzzi just goes through it so smoothly at this point. Vanilla, what can you do with Duzzi so far ahead?
Yeah, and Duzzi still has that extra boost as well, so while Vanilla racks up another for himself, it is eventually going to be Duzzi who celebrates with a nice little spin turn to qualify into the round of 16.
Duzzi has been a player for me so far in Preseason 2 that definitely resembles consistency, and he was able to show that off against Vanilla, earning him a spot into the next round of 16 along with Cool, World, and NEAL.
Yeah, darn shame. I mean, Vanilla knows, right? It was just too big of a mistake. Not much he could do to try to recover from that.
Hey, he seems he's fine. He's laughing.
I mean, listen, a much better finish than he had in Preseason 1, right? So overall, career-wise, a massive improvement. He only got 9 points total in the round of 32 in Preseason 1. This time, he was contending for 4th place with 24 points. So again, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed about, but it is unfortunate. He was this close to try to make another career improvement by entering the round of 16, but Duzzi will protect his honor and move on.
Yeah, the pro teams are really showing why they are considered a pro teams, because the players that are assembling these pro teams are so good, and we can see that especially here in the solo matches. Cool for KWANGDONGFREECS, World as well, NEAL for Live Sandbox, Duzzi for Seongnam ROX. All of these players are players that we've seen so much of in Preseason 1 have great success, and it seems they're looking to do just that in Season 2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say, you know, VEGA, this was his chance to try to get some extra stage time as he sits on the bench for ROX Esports, but wasn't able to prove himself today, oftentimes kind of breaking under that pressure. But what a tough group. I mean, you got 3 members of the final 8 in Preseason 1, and then Duzzi continuing to show up as well. I mean, this was a tough one.
Yeah, definitely not the group you want to start in if you are a rookie player trying to make a name for yourself. And in the case of Hong, UMaRu, Vanilla, and VEGA, they were not able to advance on. So it is pretty sad for them, but I honestly think they did pull their weight, especially VEGA. Despite having a really poor record, he's always been in that top 4, at least through the beginning parts of the races.
Yeah, and you know, for members like Vanilla and UMaRu, they've always been trying to get to an extra stage here in KartRider, now in KDL, and I think we're seeing improvements, right? Hopefully they can keep at it and try to really break into round of 16, round of 8 in the future. And Hong, I mean, he just returned to continue his career from military service. A rough start, but still one where he even got a track win. So maybe he comes back even stronger later in the year.
Yeah, that's a great point, because Cool and World were the 2 players that were really highlighted today, constantly picking up the first place finishes back to back. But Hong was able to put his face up there, so I'm sure that's one that he can feel really proud of, especially because a lot of players put emphasis on, oh, I want to be the one in the top 5 video this week and brag about it to all my pro friends. And even getting your face up there is one of those things you can brag about.
Yeah, I mean, again, that just shows that, okay, you absolutely have the potential, right, to really take over some of these tracks. So maybe, you know, whether he grows into solo matches or maybe even eventually on a new roster for team matches, we'll have to wait and see. But we've saw some new faces continue to show their efforts, but let's wrap up the day by reviewing how the initial matches happened here in Preseason 2. We started with team matches, kicking things off with ROX versus ShowTime.
And this match definitely went a lot closer than we expected. We were like, okay, Seongnam ROX, they obviously have an advantage here as a team. I mean, they have Chung, right? A player that you adore, Will. They were fortunately able to win in both speed and item, so they didn't have to go to that ace match, which is a pretty big upside for them in Preseason 2.
Yeah, I believe first time for them as a team, right, to get that win without having to rely on the ace match. So props to them. Clearly, the roster shuffle making some improvements. Meanwhile, KWANGDONGFREECS, it does go to that ace match, but they still prove why they were the team match champions of Preseason 1.
Yeah, and World, if we look at just Preseason 2 records, then he's the only player right now who's 1-0 in ace match. Jung, he has 0 matches played there. So he is kind of the king of ace matches right now, and I'm sure every player is looking to take him down.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that shakes up. Meanwhile, the 2 amateur teams we watched today, I mean, curious to see. You know, one of them I think easily could be making the playoffs, the top 4. So we'll have to see. The opening matches were a tough one, right? ROX and KWANGDONGFREECS, not easy matchups, but maybe they can get some wins against some of the other weaker teams.
Yeah, we're seeing the rookies definitely show up big here in Season 2, like Duzzi, for instance. Not exactly a rookie, but a player that you wouldn't necessarily say had the same caliber of performance so far, like NEAL, Cool, and World, which we were looking at the players that were maybe obviously going to move on in Group A. And yeah, that's actually what ended up happening.
Yeah, so Duzzi, he comes into the first team matches of his career last preseason. Now he's trying to continue on in solo matches, proves himself well. And sure, just statistically, Group A looked so tough. However, I mean, Groups B, C, and D, they're no pushovers either.
Yeah, just by looking at the groups, you see names stand out instantly, like Spear in Group B. For Group C, you have Seongbin. In Group D, you have Jung. Every single player here is starting to make a name, their legacy in kart rider drift, and in order to build your own, you have to compete with the other players for that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. In solo matches, sure, we might know some of these names better from team matches, but the solo matches, sometimes we have some nice surprises, right? Because it is, again, an 8-person free-for-all. But ladies and gentlemen, as it goes with KDL, we continue all weekend long, and we will be returning tomorrow with more matches.
Yep, there's Live Sandbox. We want to see what the new Sandbox looks like because they did go through quite a drastic roster change. Versus Sensation, who also had their member Speed transferring over to a different team. They have a new player in Joker, followed by match 4, Aura versus Seraphic. Aura has been a really strong team in Preseason 1, and Seraphic's going to be a rookie team where we get to see them for the first time in the KDL.
Yeah, I know Aura is a team that after Preseason 1, a lot of people are kind of like, okay, I want to see more Aura, right? Especially in item mode, I want to see what they can do. They showed some really great ideas and really great builds in Preseason 1, of course, because it is the weekend. We continue with Group B of the solo matches as well, with names like Spear, Hojin, and Hero returning as well, and a couple of these other names. See who will make it on to the round of 16.
Yeah, and in case people don't realize who Byung-soo is Speed from Preseason 1. He changed his name over, and I feel like Byung-soo was a player that was constantly talked about as one of the players that improved most coming in from the original kart rider into Drift. So it's really a nicely packed matchup in Group B.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, curious to see because he seemed to be building a pretty good storyline in Preseason 1. See if he can continue to build his career on top of that here for Preseason 2. But a pretty exciting start here for KDL Preseason 2. I mean, notably the item mode as well.
Yeah, item mode has been super great so far, but all right, guys, we are now ready to wrap up our day number 1 of KDL Preseason 2. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to be ready to check out the next match tomorrow.
nobody stopping me.